Lydia, a student from a low-income background, is a radical feminist. She either smeared super glue all over my date night dress or secretly slipped birth control pills into my water. Even after I caught her red-handed, she just shook her head and pouted. Do you really dress just to please men? With your hopelessly romantic mindset, I'm afraid you'll end up pregnant before marriage. Shocked by her idiotic behavior, I decided to rent a place with my boyfriend. To my horror, she found out and sent some thugs to assault me that very day, leading to my death. I told you all men are trash. Don't blame me. I was just helping you see their true colors. After my death, as my boyfriend was overcome with grief, she sauntered up to him with a coy smile. Though I'm a strong, independent woman, I suppose I can grudgingly offer you some comfort since you're so heartbroken. When you rejected her advances, she orchestrated an online smear campaign against him. Unable to endure the humiliation, he ultimately took his own life to join me in death. The next moment we opened our eyes, my boyfriend and I found ourselves transported back to the very day the scholarship student was championing her feminist agenda. Patriarchy is the root of oppression. Gender equality isn't a privilege, it's a right. Women's rights shouldn't have to be politely requested anymore. Lydia's impassioned cry at the school gate drew crowds of students and passers-by to a halt. The familiar scene and slogans left me utterly dumbfounded. Wait, didn't I already die? I died in that rented apartment, killed by the bleached-haired thug she brought with her. My childhood sweetheart also died from the cyberbullying she instigated against him. Suddenly, my hand was squeezed with a piercing pain. I looked up and met my boyfriend's bloodshot eyes, his voice trembling with emotion. Lena, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It's all my fault for not protecting you. If only I hadn't gone to class that day, none of this would have happened. My nose tingled, and tears welled up in my eyes. So we've both been reborn. I reached out and pulled him into my arms, whispering words of comfort. It's all right. This isn't your fault. It's all because of that Lydia and those 3 thugs. Since Providence has given us this chance to start over, we must cherish it dearly. That bitch Lydia has to die too. I stared coldly at Lydia, who was still passionately shouting slogans. She also spouted many radical feminist declarations, inciting numerous women to embrace extreme feminism, pitting men and women against each other, turning what should be a beautiful university campus into a toxic environment. She pays lip service to feminism. In reality, she's just using feminism as a pretext to grab attention and make her boyfriend fall for her. A social parasite like her deserves more than just death. They should die in agony. In the most horrific way imaginable. Though a crowd had gathered to watch, no one voiced support for her. Growing flustered, Lydia's eyes lit up when she spotted me and my boyfriend. She waved frantically and shouted, Lena, what are you just standing there for? Come help me hand out these flyers. You're supposed to be a modern woman and our class monitor. How can you stand by while women are being suffocated by male oppression? You're benefiting from rights bought with women's blood and sacrifice, yet you're selfish enough to abandon future generations of— I'd already slapped her across the face twice. The noisy school entrance fell into instant silence as every head turned in our direction. Lydia covered her face and said angrily, How dare you hit me? I rubbed my sore wrist and smiled. Didn't you say it yourself? Feminism shouldn't be a gentle request. The class monitor's role involves coordinating class affairs, fostering academic development and study ethics, organizing activities to strengthen class unity, and serving as a liaison with school faculty, not delivering unapproved radical feminist speeches. I've benefited from the rights fought for by countless women, accessing university education, being raised by parents who reject son preference, studying alongside male peers, and securing equal pay for equal work. I'm deeply grateful to these trailblazers and strive to embody their tenacious spirit, rising higher to protect and empower more women. But this isn't about so-called feminism, it's about equal rights, true gender equality. Her boyfriend was the first to erupt into enthusiastic applause. Now that's what I call true gender equality. Soon everyone around joined in, applauding and cheering. Our university is a top-tier institution. The students here are sharp enough to see through her manipulative rhetoric. Lydia's face flushed crimson as she snapped angrily, How did women ever give birth to a male-pleasing bitch like you? Men have oppressed women for thousands of years. They must suffer the same hardships we endured, or it wouldn't be fair. I curled my lips into a cold sneer and said mockingly, No wonder you keep failing your exams. Where in this world do you find true equality? Men are naturally endowed with greater physical strength, while women possess the unique ability to bear children despite their physical delicacy. What we strive for is not equality, but justice. If you genuinely want to contribute to the feminist cause, then for heaven's sake, hit the books and don't embarrass us women. She jabbed her finger at my face, fuming with rage. That's absolute nonsense. Male professor sexually assaults female student. I cut in coldly. Stop using extreme cases to justify your flawed logic. Wrongdoers are defined by their character, not their gender. If you truly despise men this much, you shouldn't exist at all. Without your father, there'd be no you. You've been living off financial support since childhood, and plenty of men contributed to that funding. If you're so principled, why don't you pay them back with interest? And while you're at it, stop accepting student grants. Half that money comes from male taxpayers. Lydia was left speechless by the retort. Clutching the flyers on the table, she glared at me venomously. The feminist movement struggles precisely because of traitors like you. You're going to hell when you die. The smile on my lips grew even more brilliant. Damn right I am. I clawed my way out of hell just to drag her down with me, too. A video of my argument with Lydia was posted on the campus forum by a classmate. It sparked a huge response, with the vast majority of students strongly supporting my perspective. What people have always wanted isn't so-called men's rights or women's rights, it's equal rights. What we're fighting for is the right to live as equals. The post went viral, and both Lydia and I became widely recognized. While I received friendly glances from everyone, she had it rough, getting attacked by some radical male chauvinists. After all, you reap what you sow, so she laid low for a couple of weeks, not daring to post radical feminist rhetoric on the campus forum anymore. She didn't even dare to hand out feminist flyers at the school gate. But once the buzz around this incident died down, she started acting up again just like in her previous life. I just bought a new yellow feathered gown, and the moment I set it down on the chair, she immediately glued it to the seat, before she could finish speaking. Then I found white powder had been added to my freshly poured glass of water. I immediately called our academic advisor. She said with a smug look, "What proof do you have that I did all this? As long as I insist it wasn't me, there's nothing you can do about it. If you keep making baseless accusations, I'll sue you for defamation." The counselor nodded. Lydia is right. Without evidence, she could actually sue you for defamation. I picked up the phone that had been recording nearby and smiled. Who says there's no evidence? I was just filming a short video to document my day and happened to forget to turn it off when I went to the restroom. Lydia immediately flew into a rage. Who said you could film in the dorm? Don't you know you're violating my privacy? Delete it right now, or I'll sue you for invasion of privacy. Fine, then I'll just post this video online, blur your face, and let everyone weigh in. How about that? The counselor advised. It's normal for two people to have disagreements. There's no need to blow things out of proportion, Lydia. Just compensate her for this dress and that'll settle it. She finally said reluctantly. Fine, how much? Consider it my good deed for the day. I pulled the receipt from my pocket and handed it to her with a smile. Nothing much, just 18,000, bought it yesterday, and here's the receipt. Got it. Will that be cash or Alipay? She let out a piercing shriek like a startled groundhog. 18,000 for this rag? You might as well just rob me. I'm not paying a dime for this. Go ahead and post your video if you want. The advisor furrowed their brow and started trying to reason with me. 18,000 is an exorbitant amount. As a college student, you do have a responsibility to safeguard such an expensive dress if you keep it in your dorm room. You know Lydia comes from a poor family. Her monthly allowance is only 800 yuan. Let's just call it even with that amount, 18,000. And she offers 800. I was so furious I burst out laughing. I knew the advisor would try to smooth things over with a weak compromise, but I never expected him to be this petty, Lydia said with a smug, gloating laugh. It's just 800 bucks, consider it my charity, but that brand new 18,000 yuan dress of yours is ruined. What a waste. Without arguing, I pointed at the water glass on the table and said, I saw Lydia put something in my water glass. I'm sure it's nothing good. If I'm even 1 cent short of the 18,000, I'll call the police and have this tested. I remember that college student poisoning case got quite a lot of attention, didn't it? Lydia's face instantly turned pale as she snatched the glass away. I immediately dialed 110 on my phone. You'd better destroy it, that way I can claim it was poison, and you'll be facing jail time. Now Lydia was genuinely panicked with regret. 3. It's not poison. Just birth control pills. The moment I saw you putting on that pretty dress, I knew it was to impress some man. With your hopeless romantic mindset, I'm worried you'll end up pregnant before marriage. I'm only saying this for your own good. Save those excuses for the police. Seeing that I was serious about calling the police, the advisor quickly interjected. I'll make sure Lydia compensates you the full 18,000 yuan, but please don't involve the police. If this gets out, it could create negative publicity for the university and affect both of your graduate school applications. Let's find a middle ground here. Lydia, apologize to Qiao Yuning immediately and pay her 18,000 yuan. One more incident like this and you'll face serious disciplinary action. Qiao, try to be more low-key in how you carry yourself, and delete that video once you receive the payment. Of course we can't call the police. That 18,000 000 yuan receipt isn't for this dress at all, it's just for some 18 yuan knockoff from a street stall. I told my boyfriend about it over hot pot that evening, he said with a mix of helplessness and concern. Lena, you're such a foodie, how come you didn't tell me about such a big deal sooner? What if that lunatic had another episode and hurt you? I said cheerfully while picking up tripe with my chopsticks. I contacted our advisor right away and recorded the whole thing. There was no what if about it. My boyfriend was still feeling a bit shaken. What if the advisor is in cahoots with Lydia? Didn't you notice how he kept siding with her the whole time? I stuffed the tripe into his mouth. All right, I get it. I'll be more careful next time and avoid any direct confrontation with her. Besides, she doesn't have the influence to collude with the counselor. She's got no money, no connections, and no background to speak of. Suddenly remembering something, they added, according to the timeline, she should be making a move on you soon. You're wealthy, handsome, and treat me so well. She must despise me by now and is probably dying to steal you away just to spite me. My boyfriend let out a cold laugh, his eyes glinting with menace. She'd better come seduce me sooner rather than later. I couldn't help but light a metaphorical funeral candle for Lydia in my heart. My boyfriend appeared gentle and refined. The picture of a nice guy, but after being reborn, he had tried countless times to kill her. I thought it would take Lydia ages to gather the money. To my surprise, she managed to come up with 18,000 that very evening and transferred it to me. To prevent any funny business, I made her write a letter of self-criticism. Though reluctant, she obediently wrote it as instructed by her counselor. I deleted the video from my phone right in front of them. As for the cloud backup, well, they never asked about that. Lydia is acting completely out of character and trying to win me over. Class monitor, I scrubbed the dorm bathroom clean. It took me over half an hour. Class monitor, are you getting food? Should I bring you something? Class monitor, I saved you a seat. Come sit next to me. These bizarre scenes set off all kinds of alarm bells in my mind. If you think she suddenly had a change of heart and realized her mistakes, that's absolutely impossible. After this went on for about a week, I finally figured out her game. She was doing all this to make our classmates think I'd forgiven her and that we were still best friends, so everyone's attitude towards her softened quite a bit. Then she seized the moment to suggest we have an afternoon tea for our class bonding event. Class monitor, you know I caused some trouble with everyone recently because I was being immature. I'd like to use this opportunity to ask for everyone's forgiveness. Class president, I'm counting on you. You've put it that way. I really can't say no, but using class funds for afternoon tea, guys aren't really into that bougie vibe. Still, quite a few girls were tempted and suggested going Dutch. My boyfriend brought along a few guys from our dorm to join us. Just to make sure she wouldn't pull any stunts to hurt me, it was just an ordinary class dinner. Lydia spent 3 hours in the dorm perfecting a full face of makeup, then slipped into a pink spaghetti strap top, a sequined miniskirt, and black high heels. The moment I saw her battle armor, it all clicked. All the recent efforts to please him were just to counteract his previous aversion toward her. This time, the main goal was to seduce him. She has this much patience and perseverance. If only she had applied it to her studies, she wouldn't have failed every exam and needed to retake them. We had afternoon tea at a very quaint, artsy cafe that's perfect for taking photos. She took the initiative to help take photos with her phone and kept showering her boyfriend with compliments. Luca, you treat the class monitor so well. I've never seen such a devoted boyfriend before, bringing her breakfast every morning, helping her get lunch at noon, and even crawling out of bed at midnight to buy her snacks when she says she's hungry. I heard you were even middle school classmates, and you turned down studying abroad for her. A boyfriend like you is truly one of a kind. I should take more photos of you to show other guys how it's done. The boyfriend flatly refused. No thanks, I'm not really into taking photos. Lydia reached out to link arms with him, but her boyfriend quickly pulled away. She said playfully, "Don't be shy. It's just a photo, no need to dodge it." Everyone else joined in with lighthearted teasing. Wow. Didn't expect the class president's husband to be so shy. If he's this handsome, just let Lydia take a few photos. We could post them on the forum for everyone to admire. Amid all the laughter and teasing, my boyfriend pretended to be coerced into taking a few pictures. Her way of seducing people is pretty straightforward and blunt. While taking photos, she casually revealed her ample cleavage. When she crouched down, her lace panties were clearly visible. Then she trotted over to him and cooed in a sugary voice, "Luca is seriously so handsome. He looks good from every angle, and your proportions are amazing too, with those broad shoulders and narrow waist. It's such a turn-on. You must be like a jackhammer in bed." Ha! At such a lewd remark, her boyfriend's face instantly flushed bright red, and he turned and walked away. I've reached my breaking point and went to ask the manager for the surveillance footage of this private room. This is such blatant sexual harassment that it's practically grounds for calling the police. Meanwhile, she thought she had successfully flirted with her boyfriend and made him shy, feeling quite pleased with herself. After waiting for quite a while without her boyfriend showing up, she went over to the group of guys sitting by the window. Jack's girlfriend is a real looker from the music department next door. She's got both the looks and a great personality, so we all really like her. I smirked coldly, but then she went and started spreading rumors about the girls in the music department. I was out shopping the other day and saw your girlfriend heading to the movies with some guy. I remember she was wearing this eye-catching pink Lolita dress that really stood out, even from a distance. I could tell they were acting pretty cozy. Anyone would have thought they were a couple. Jack's face instantly darkened. He retorted, "Impossible. She wasn't feeling well and was resting in her dorm room the day before yesterday. There's no way she went out." Lydia blinked her eyes. "Why would I lie to you? I have nothing to gain from it. I'm saying this as a friend. I just don't want to see you get played by your girlfriend. Take it or leave it. Besides, I wasn't the only one who saw it. Several classmates witnessed it too. We've always said your girlfriend is way too pretty. She's got rich guys chasing after her. I even saw her being dropped off late at night by some old man in a luxury car before." I immediately shot back. "Weren't you sleeping in the dorm all day the day before yesterday? When did you even go out? How come I didn't know about it?" she said offhandedly. I must have misremembered then. "It was probably 3 days ago, or sometime this past week anyway." Monitor. As a feminist, I would never falsely accuse or slander any woman. Her feminist persona was so convincing that Jack's face turned completely ashen. He stormed out immediately, heading to the school to confront his girlfriend. I quickly turned to the guys nearby and said, "Go keep an eye on Jack. That athlete has a fiery temper. Try to calm him down." Hearing this, they immediately got up and rushed after him. Lydia crossed her arms, wearing a look of someone eager to watch the drama unfold. "Class president, you just can't resist sticking your nose where it doesn't belong. Why do you always have to meddle in couples' business?" I struggled to contain my anger. "You never even saw his girlfriend going to the movies with someone else. Why are you spreading lies about her? What do you even get out of watching people argue and fight?" she said with a grin. "It's just testing how much they trust each other. If Jack trusts his girlfriend, then what I just said makes no difference. But if he doesn't, it proves their relationship has issues, and they're better off breaking up sooner rather than later. A young woman's youth is precious. I'm only thinking of what's best for her." I knew she was messed up, but I'd underestimated just how far gone she was. As I reached the dormitory that evening, I could already hear crying from inside. When I opened the door, I saw Jack's girlfriend Chatonzi sobbing in Lydia's arms. How dare he accuse me of cheating? I follow him around every day after class, even endure the scorching sun to watch him play soccer, and this is how he repays me. When I caught his ex visiting him last week, I believed his "it's nothing" excuse. Why can't he trust me? He's the one with questionable character, not me. Lydia nodded in agreement. Exactly, he's the one with no self-control. That's why he's pinning the blame on you. The whole class knows about his ex coming to see him. She was giving him flowers at the school gate, buying him sneakers. He told you he turned her down, but he never actually refused. If you hadn't shown up, they probably would have ended up in a hotel room that night. And another thing, I've overheard him and his friends multiple times talking about sexy babes and looking at porn magazines. They even said your figure is nothing special. Nowhere near as hot as his ex. Her face instantly flushed crimson with rage. That bastard Jack. I must have been blind to ever fall for someone like him. I'm going home right now to gather all the gifts he gave me and return them. What a disgusting, pathetic excuse for a man. With that, she stormed out. I tried to stop her but couldn't. Lydia looked at me with a smug expression and said, "I was just talking nonsense." But they actually took it seriously. How stupid can they be? "I told you men can't be trusted." With just a few casual remarks from me, he went and picked a fight with his girlfriend. Now you believe me, don't you? Women should be independent and self-reliant. Why would anyone rush to serve men, especially someone like her, who's clearly got so much going for her, yet she turns into a lovesick fool? It's ridiculous. I couldn't hold back any longer and slapped her hard across the face. "Did you know she's been struggling with depression? Jack's the only reason she's been able to cope. If anything happens to her, you'll be torn to shreds," Lydia said with an uneasy expression. "What's that got to do with me? I was just making an offhand comment. Can't I even joke around? Besides, she's a grown adult. If she can't tell right from wrong, that's her problem. Don't try to pin this on me." I didn't have time to argue with her, so I called my boyfriend. I asked my boyfriend to talk some sense into Jack and get him to go apologize to his girlfriend, but my boyfriend said right after their fight, Jack dragged his buddies out drinking and is already wasted, so I rushed off to find little Tuanzi. I even mobilized all the girls in our class to help search. For the first time, I realized having such a large campus wasn't necessarily a good thing. After over half an hour of searching, some classmates even checked the lake behind the cafeteria. We were terrified something might have happened to her. In the end, we found her on the top floor of the teaching building. This door is usually locked. No idea where she got the key. She had already climbed onto the railing, her white dress billowing in the wind, her makeup smeared by tears. Against the blazing sunset clouds, she looked utterly heartbroken. "Stay back. Come any closer and I'll jump." We scrambled backwards several steps in a hurry. Her gaze swept over us, and her heart sank into despair when she didn't see Jack. I sneered coldly. "I knew it. He doesn't love me anymore. He doesn't even care if I die. If that's the case, then there's no point in me living anymore." Lydia was genuinely panicked now and hurriedly tried to reason with her. "Little Tuanzi, don't do anything foolish. Even if Jack doesn't want you, you still have your parents. Think how heartbroken and disappointed they'd be if they knew you'd die over a man." The composure little Tuanzi had maintained instantly shattered. "Both my parents jumped into the sea and took their own lives when I was 18. If it weren't for Jack, I'd have been long gone. Now he doesn't love me anymore. No one in this world does. I'm going to jump off this building. I want Jack to regret this for the rest of his life." With that, she leaned outward, clearly intending to jump. I immediately shouted at the top of my lungs, "If you really die, I'll introduce him to a dozen new girlfriends right after. 5. He's handsome and great at basketball. Plenty of girls are into him. Sure, he might mourn you for a few days, but he'll move on fast. He might even bring his new girlfriend to burn paper offerings at your grave. If I were you, anyone who dared steal my boyfriend would be dead. What's there to fear when you're already willing to die? Even if I had to break his legs and tie him up with ropes, I'd make sure he stays. If he's going to die, it has to be by your hand. Only then will you be bound together through reincarnation, entangled for all eternity." It was clear she was convinced by my words. Her eyes grew intense with emotion, but then her expression suddenly dimmed. "But if he doesn't love me anymore, what's the point of doing this?" I quickly nodded in agreement. "If he truly didn't love you, he wouldn't have confronted you the moment he heard those rumors. Wouldn't have trembled with rage yet never laid a hand on you, and certainly wouldn't have drowned his sorrows with his buddies until he nearly ended up in the hospital." Hearing this, she hastily climbed down from the railing. "His health is fragile. How could he drink like that? I'm going to find him and take him to the hospital right now." Everyone breathed a collective sigh of relief seeing her reaction. Lydia shot back with a snide remark, "Getting all worked up over a man, what an embarrassment to women like us." I raised my hand and slapped her twice more. "How dare you say that? If you hadn't spread those lies, she never would have tried to take her own life. You were this close to being a murderer. Counselor, I demand a public reprimand for her. She must receive a major demerit. That request isn't unreasonable at all." But unexpectedly, the counselor flat out refused. "This matter has already been resolved. There's no need to blow it out of proportion. It would only damage Sienna's reputation. Lydia, you need to apologize to both of them later, and be more careful from now on." "All right, everyone, let's break it up. Keep this matter under wraps. Don't let it get out. If anyone finds out you leaked it, forget about getting your certificate. This is such blatant favoritism, it's completely obvious. It's normal for advisors to downplay issues, but this time it nearly cost someone their life. And it doesn't really involve him anyway. The fact that he's still covering for her is definitely suspicious." After the crowd dispersed, my boyfriend said with conviction, "There's something off about this counselor. I'm going to have someone look into it." I nodded in agreement. "He's willing to face the school's disciplinary action just to protect them. Their relationship must be truly special." The man gently stroked my head and said, "What you did just now was remarkable. You didn't just save Sienna, you saved Jack's entire family. If she had actually died, he would have been so consumed with guilt that he'd have jumped right after her. His parents had him late in life. He's their entire world," I admitted with a lingering sense of dread. "Good thing I enjoy watching psychology shows and know how to apply what I've learned. We can't let that troublemaker Lydia stick around any longer." My boyfriend let out a cold laugh. "The school anniversary is in 2 weeks. That's when we'll release all those disgusting photos and messages she sent me privately. Since she enjoys spreading rumors and cyberbullying so much, we'll give her a taste of public humiliation. I've also tracked down those 3 bleach blonde troublemakers. When the time comes," I shook my head, "as women, we have countless ways to make her life miserable. There's no need to resort to this method." My boyfriend let out a sigh. You're just too kind-hearted, especially after how she's treated you. Kindness, of course there is some, but mostly I don't want her to have such an easy way out. I'm going to make her suffer terribly, for myself, for my boyfriend, and for everyone else she's hurt. When I got back to the dorm, I saw Lydia lounging with her legs crossed, wearing a face mask. When they saw me return, they shot me a mocking grin. Still want me to get a public reprimand and a major demerit. You're really ruthless, class president. What a shame though. I just went to see both of them, and they've already forgiven me. Consider this matter closed, I said with a faint, ambiguous smile. Your counselor went with you, didn't they? Your counselor is so good to you. She tilted her chin up proudly and said, of course, I'm the leading feminist voice at the school. Someone as outstanding and independent as you absolutely deserves special treatment. With her knack for stirring up trouble everywhere, even the teachers keep their distance, let alone the academic advisors. Normally when we go to ask the professor questions, just having another female student around is enough, but with her, when she goes to ask the professor something, he'll only talk to her out in the hallway, where there are security cameras. Back when she first started at the school, a guy accidentally bumped into her in the cafeteria line, and she immediately accused him of sexual assault. When others took selfies with their phones, she accused them of taking pictures of her without permission. It wasn't until she crossed paths with a law student who put her in her place that she finally settled down. She kept bombarding her boyfriend with revealing photos. I concluded she definitely wasn't the counselor's mistress. Could she be his secret love child? My eyes lit up at the thought of that possibility. The counselor's wife was quite formidable. Once, he glanced at a female student a few times too many and got slapped in public. He was so intimidated that he kept apologizing and admitting his mistake. My boyfriend excitedly called me. Turns out Lydia really is the counselor's illegitimate child, and her mother has been involved with multiple men. Basically, the counselor was just one of her mother's clients, unaware he was merely one among many. A question just occurred to me. If that's the case, why is she still classified as a financially disadvantaged student? Logically, she should be well off. My boyfriend sneered. Since the advisor couldn't afford to give her living expenses, they applied for a poverty-stricken student quota on her behalf. The financial aid she receives essentially covers her living costs. That explanation is absolutely flawless. There are still a few days left until the school anniversary. To be absolutely safe, I pretended to have a fight with my boyfriend. Just like in her past life, she dressed very seductively to seduce her boyfriend. After learning he was drinking at a bar with a male classmate, she eagerly rushed over and even secretly tried to drug his drink, but her boyfriend outsmarted her by switching the glasses and had a bar promoter waiting for her instead. What a wild night. The club promoters are totally used to people hooking up for free. He was gone after we slept together. When Lydia woke up in the morning, she thought it was her boyfriend. She proudly posted a selfie on WeChat showing a hickey on her collarbone. My boyfriend bit me. He's so rough. They even went out of their way to hit me. I commented, is your boyfriend not human? 6. She instantly replied, of course he is, but he's just so wild in bed. He ended up hurting me. I replied, if you're sick, go to the hospital. Coming to me won't help. She, are you out of your mind? I turned to ask my boyfriend who was gaming beside me, is that marketer insane or what? Without even looking up, he said, dunno, just did it without thinking. My boyfriend finished a game and opened WeChat. Damn, Lydia had sent dozens of messages. She was already calling him hubby and sent provocative photos to seduce him. His eyes were filled with disgust. With just 1 week left until the school anniversary, we can finally put an end to her. The counselor's wife is definitely coming too. Whether she lives or dies will be up to fate then. A smirk tugged at the corner of my mouth. Then we'll sue her for defamation and sexual harassment. Even if she doesn't get jail time, she'll at least be detained for 10 days. On top of that, she was drugging people at bars and had a chaotic personal life. Her reputation was completely ruined, but all that was just the appetizer. The real revenge was yet to come. The school's 80th anniversary celebration was absolutely buzzing. Leaders from the Education Bureau, the dean, and professors all attended the event, and they even invited numerous journalists for live interviews. My boyfriend is a host, so I'm usually immune to his good looks, but seeing him all dressed up in a proper suit and tie still made my heart flutter. After the final performance, as he was delivering the closing remarks, Lydia came up to him with a huge bouquet of roses. Still holding the microphone, she loudly declared her love for him. Luca. Today marks our 1-week anniversary. I'm a strong independent woman who never bows to any man, but for you, I'd lower my head. My boyfriend immediately furrowed his brow and said with disgust, who's your boyfriend? Stop talking nonsense. My girlfriend is Chia Yuning. Our parents have met, and we're deeply in love, just waiting to graduate before getting married. Lydia said angrily, if you're not my boyfriend, why did you sleep with me? Then I'll report you for rape. My boyfriend's long-suppressed rage finally erupted, no longer held back. You've been harassing me with messages for 2 months straight, and now you have the audacity to spread lies and slander me. This isn't the first time you've pulled something like this. If you won't report this to the police, I will. Sexual harassment and defamation. The leaders in the audience, who had been about to leave after the show, one by one halted in their tracks. Students who had already left started streaming back in, crowding around the stage. Watching drama unfold is practically in our DNA. The advisor saw that things were getting out of hand. He rushed onto the stage, pulling Lydia aside, and said, "Let's discuss this privately. Don't make a scene here." Lydia collapsed to the floor in tears and started yelling, "Luca, you shameless scoundrel. You got what you wanted and now you're pretending we never met. You slept with me, so you have to marry me. Otherwise I'll pull the security footage from the bar and accuse you of rape. I'll still marry you after you get out of prison." The mental gymnastics here are truly astounding. Her boyfriend took out his phone and called the police. The counselor immediately snatched his phone and said, "Don't call the police." Her boyfriend cut in with a cold laugh. "Why not? When she superglued my girlfriend's skirt and crushed birth control pills into her drink, you turned a blind eye. When she spread vicious rumors that nearly drove another girl to suicide, you swept it under the rug. Now she's publicly slandering me, and you're still protecting her, is she?" Before he could finish, the counselor shouted in fury, "Stop talking nonsense. As the academic advisor, I care about every student." At that moment, a woman's voice rang out, full of vigor and boiling with rage. "How dare you, Kevin, sneaking around behind my back, fooling around, and even fathering an illegitimate child. Where is that slut Lydia? Your whore of a mother stole my husband. Today I'll skin you alive before dealing with that tramp mother of yours." Lydia knew exactly how fierce this tigress could be. She tried to bolt, but her boyfriend grabbed her and shouted, "Auntie, this is Lydia." No wonder the counselor would rather lose his job than let anything happen to her. She's his illegitimate daughter, like mother, like daughter. Her mom's a homewrecker, and she's no better, sending me nude photos every day, than having the nerve to accuse me of sleeping with her. Disgusting people always cause the most drama. Just looking at her makes me sick to my stomach. Lydia's face flushed crimson with rage as she pointed a trembling finger at her boyfriend, ready to unleash a torrent of abuse, but I sent her stumbling back with 2 sharp slaps across the face. "I thought you said you hated men more than anything. Weren't you the one always boasting about being some independent girl boss? So this is what you call feminism? You're just using it as an excuse to flirt with my boyfriend. How pathetic." The counselor's wife was just 3 meters away and closing in. I leaned in and sneered by her ear. "That man from the other night wasn't my boyfriend. He's a promoter from the bar." Her eyes instantly turned bloodshot. She shook off her boyfriend's restraining hand and lunged at me, only to be kicked to the ground by the counselor's wife. 7. The attack was absolutely brutal. Punches and kicks were nothing compared to when she stomped on her stomach with stiletto heels. Instantly, she let out a blood-curdling scream. It all happened in the blink of an eye. Security quickly arrived and put a stop to the commotion. The ambulance and police arrived together. Lydia was placed on a stretcher, the bloodstains spreading visibly. None of the classmates showed any sympathy. They all said she deserved it. Lydia suffered a uterine rupture, broke 8 ribs, and her right hand was completely shattered. Her own mother didn't even come to the hospital to see her first. Instead, she went to the counselor's wife to demand money, tip 200,000 for medical expenses, and immediately ran off. She was left at the hospital, but got kicked out for not being able to pay. With nowhere else to go, she thought about returning to school, but her boyfriend sent videos and photos of her recent sexual harassment incidents to the principal, demanding severe punishment or else he would go straight to the police. The school was hesitant at first, but then discovered she had repeatedly skipped classes and failed courses, seriously violating school rules. They also found out she had falsified her documents and didn't meet the financial aid requirements at all, so they directly issued an expulsion notice and demanded she pay back all the financial aid she had received over the years. She stopped going to school and rented a place off campus to recuperate. All her classmates and teachers received messages from her asking to borrow money. My boyfriend, and I got them too. He immediately sent a legal notice, and she just blocked and deleted us. It's not that we're too kind-hearted to press charges, I'm just worried that prison would be too cushy for her if we press charges. 3 square meals and a roof over her head, while out here she's scraping by with loan sharks just to pay for rent and medication. After recovering, she went straight to work at a KTV as a hostess, and so began her long, grueling journey to pay off the loan sharks, while cutting through a back alley after shopping. My boyfriend and I got stopped by 3 guys with bleached hair. They were brandishing fruit knives, attempting to rob me while making lewd remarks and threatening to harm me. The self-defense regulations under public security management were updated yesterday. As long as it doesn't exceed necessary force, it's perfectly justified, with 3 assailants all armed with fruit knives and attempting to humiliate me. The situation checked every box for justified self-defense. 5 minutes later, I nervously and fearfully called the police. The police then called 3 ambulances and had them all taken away. Seeing the 3 of them lying in hospital beds, with broken ribs and shattered bones, I couldn't help but smirk, and this was just the beginning. Once they recover, they'll be locked up, with robbery, attempted rape, and prior convictions combined. They're getting the maximum sentence of 15 years. Those 15 years in prison will be daily torment, with them praying for a fresh start after release, but their real suffering will only begin after they get out. On graduation day, 3 blessings arrived at once: collect the diploma, the marriage certificate, and Lydia's death notice. Honestly, she should have been dead long ago, with loan sharks hounding her, working as a KTV hostess, dealing with perverted clients. Just imagine how tough her life was. Every time she tried to end it all, I dangled hope in front of her, only to let her watch it shatter. This time, she overdosed and completely lost it, ran stark naked into the street, crushed under a convoy of massive trucks, one after another. Over 30 trucks rolled right over. Her bones and flesh were smeared across the pavement. It took traffic police with shovels a long time to scrape up what was left. Divine justice is clear for all to see. Retribution is swift and sure. Story 2. My master returned from his travels down the mountain, bringing back a woman with him. He said she was to be my junior sister disciple. One day I discovered this junior sister was actually a demonic cultivator who fed on human essence. I immediately reported this matter to our master, yet my master publicly accused me of being consumed by jealousy and harming fellow disciples. He stripped me of my cultivation before the crowd and destroyed my physical form, then secretly refined my spiritual essence into vital energy to aid my junior sister's cultivation. Only then did I realize the master had known her true identity all along. Given a second chance at life, I immediately switched masters on the very day he returned. The flawless sect rejoiced as Immortal Venerable Xander returned from his travels, for he was one of only 2 Tribulation Transcendence elders in the entire sect. Immortal Venerable Xander actually brought back a woman this time. Who knew that ice-cold men could actually fall in love? Nonsense, I'm just his disciple. The crowd turned to me in unison, their eyes flickering with mixed emotions, all because I'm Immortal Venerable Xander's sole disciple, though he essentially abandoned me right after taking me in, leaving to train in the mortal world. This was my first time seeing him, or rather, my first encounter since rebirth. In my past life, I exposed that woman as a demonic cultivator, only to have Venerable Xander strip me of my cultivation, destroy my physical form, and deliver my soul to her for refinement. 1. The agony of having my soul torn apart still haunts my mind. In the grand hall of the sect, the moment he returned, the sect master rebuked him. Outrageous! How dare a mere mortal seek entry into our immortal sect? Xander and the woman stood in the grand hall, facing off against the sect leader. Violet once saved my life in the mortal realm. Without her, I wouldn't be here today. Immortal Venerable Xander declared stubbornly, vowing, I will nurture Violet into a peerless genius the world has never seen. The sect leader roared in anger. What about Arwen then? All these years, have you ever cared for her? Have you ever taught her anything? I am Arwen. As my master, Xander never taught me a single thing. He even begrudged me the most basic cultivation resources. In my past life, out of respect for the teacher-student bond, I harbored no resentment whatsoever, for I believe that a teacher for a day is a father for life. This time, I want to choose a different master. Arwen is exceptionally gifted and can learn on her own, but Violet is different. Immortal Venerable Xander declared unapologetically, showing no regard for my future prospects. She's just a mortal. Cultivation will be incredibly difficult for her. Naturally, I must devote myself to her training. I trust Arwen will understand her master's position. Xander's gaze shifted to me. It forced me to step forward from the crowd. Seeing my approach, Xander pushed his luck. Arwen, come greet your junior sister. I remained still and asked calmly, Master, does this mean you'll no longer teach me or allocate any cultivation resources to me? I shot back. Xander's face darkened. My words had clearly struck a nerve. What kind of master doesn't teach his disciple anything? The great hall fell completely silent. Violet, who'd been hiding behind Xander, spoke up first with glistening tears. Am I causing trouble? I'm sorry. I can always go back to living alone at the mountain's foot. I may be an orphan with no parents, but I can take care of myself. Don't need your pity. With that, she actually turned to leave, but would Xander let her go? Not a chance. He yanked Violet back and roared at me. Arwen, look what you've done. I just got back and you're already turning comrades against each other, with conduct like yours. How could I possibly teach you properly? After his outburst, Xander looked at me with utter disappointment. In his eyes, I was nothing but a complete failure of a disciple. Master, please don't say that. Senior sister didn't mean to. Violet sobbed pitifully in Xander's arms, her tears unstoppable. Seeing my aggressive demeanor, Xander's gaze toward me grew even more disdainful, watching their coordinated performance. I couldn't help but sneer, since immortal Xander can't teach me properly, I'll just find myself another mentor. With that declaration, I defiantly knelt before the entire assembly, prostrating myself toward the sect leader's direction. This disciple pays respects to master. Silence. The crowd stared at me in stunned silence, utterly speechless. Recovering from his shock, Xander glared at me with disgust. A treacherous disciple who disrespects elders. Do you really think the sect leader would want someone like you, nestled in his arms? Violet shot me a covert glance brimming with smug satisfaction. With condescending pity, he looked down at my kneeling form and added, "You might as well get up. The cultivation world values respect for masters above all. No one would take in someone like you. How about admitting your mistake? I might reluctantly take you as an outer disciple." I cowed on the ground in silence, awaiting the sect master's approval. As a lightning-attributed single spiritual root genius who reached foundation establishment at 16, every sect outside was clamoring to take me as their disciple. I continued shouting toward the sect master, "This disciple pays respects to master." As I cowed out again, the sect master finally snapped out of it and helped me up. Xander's sneering voice still rang in my ears. "Sect master, are you really taking in someone with such disgraceful conduct and no respect for elders?" I looked up into the sect master's gleaming eyes as he declared, "Yes, absolutely. From this day forward, you shall be my personal disciple." I could practically feel the temperature drop several degrees around Xander. He ground his teeth and spat. "Well played," deliberately opposing me. "Are you? Just wait until the Immortal Sect tournament. I'll have Violet reach the Golden Core realm." Mark my words. My eyes darkened. In my past life, Violet did indeed reach the Golden Core realm during the tournament, but only by devouring my soul essence to get there. Violet tugged at Xander's sleeve with starry-eyed admiration. "I believe in you. You can do this." Xander ate it right up. With a tender smile, he took Violet's hand and led her away. He shot me a venomous glare before leaving. "Seems we've gone from potential master and disciple to sworn enemies." The sect leader was still basking in the joy of accepting me as his disciple. Meanwhile, my gaze wandered until it settled on an inconspicuous junior disciple. This was the very disciple whom Violet had drained of life essence in my past life. I'd stumbled upon his corpse too late to intervene. To prevent tragedy, I addressed the sect leader. "Master, I'd like a golden light talisman." My dear disciple, it's just a golden light talisman. Take all my worldly possessions." With that, the sect leader pulled his spatial ring right off his finger and handed it to me. "Ask if you need more, just focus on your cultivation." As I took the ring, my heart stirred. Such kindness was unheard of in my past life. Gathering my thoughts, I slipped the ring onto my finger and handed a golden talisman to the young disciple. The disciple flushed with disbelief. I couldn't possibly accept this. I pressed it into his hands regardless. Survival came first. After settling these matters, I followed the sect leader back to his cavern abode to cultivate. That night, a blood-curdling scream shattered my meditation. A disciple came running in panic, shouting, sect leader, murder, someone's been killed." After changing clothes, I stepped out and stopped him. Glancing at the sect leader's cave abode, I knew he was currently attempting his great ascension breakthrough. The master is in seclusion. "What happened?" I asked, feigning ignorance. "Eldest senior sister, that disciple immortal venerable Xander brought back has killed someone." His shocked outcry woke everyone up. Now the whole sect witnessed it, not just me. "Who exactly are you trying to silence?" "Xander." When I arrived, Violet was tied to a pillar, drenched in blood, her exposed skin marred by eerie black patterns, the unmistakable mark of a dark cultivator. The disciples were clamoring for her execution. The injured junior disciple on the ground clutched his neck, looking at me with gratitude. He knew he'd be dead if not for my golden light talisman. "Eldest senior sister, how should we deal with this person?" I smiled coldly. "Practicing forbidden arts and harming fellow disciples, death is the only fitting punishment." The disciples obeyed my command, summoning spiritual flames to burn Violet alive. Strapped to the pillar and facing imminent death, she cried out in panic, "Master, save me." Violet's desperate cries indeed summoned immortal Lord Xander. The moment he arrived, he freed Violet from her restraints. Seeing Violet drenched in blood, Xander roared in fury, "How dare you abduct my disciple? Is this grand sect so petty that it cannot tolerate a single mortal?" Violet found her protector and buried herself in Xander's embrace, sobbing uncontrollably, "Master, they want to kill me. I'm terrified." Hearing this, Xander held her tenderly. his hand patting her back in steady rhythm. This was far from how a normal master-disciple relationship should appear. A flicker of mockery crossed my eyes as I stated coolly, "Elder Xander, your disciple practices forbidden arts, consuming human essence for cultivation. By sect law, she merits immediate execution." Xander's icy gaze swept over us as he shielded Violet in his arms. "Where's your proof?" Now he demands evidence. In our past life, he executed me without trial while the sect master was in seclusion, all to protect Violet. When the sect master emerged to confront him, Xander exploited a loophole and fled with Violet. Since then, the Xander sect has borne the infamy of driving away an Ascension Realm immortal. The sect master developed inner demons over this incident and perished during his heavenly tribulation. The last remnants of my consciousness were utterly consumed in that moment. To condemn Violet without evidence, I'm utterly disappointed in your flawless sect. Xander wore a dejected expression, as if our sect were some petty organization bullying him and his disciple. I pulled over my junior brother who was clutching his wound and said to Xander, "Elder, look at his injuries. Those 2 puncture wounds are proof she's been draining human essence." The junior brother nodded like pounding garlic. Xander merely glanced at it and sneered, "Nonsense. How do we know this isn't some trick you've concocted to frame Violet?" I channeled spiritual energy into the damaged golden light talisman, activating the time reversal technique. In an instant, a projection of the recent events materialized midair. The junior disciple delivering supplies was suddenly ambushed by a white blur. Had it not been for his life-saving talisman, that strike would have been fatal. The scene shifted, revealing Violet's transformed appearance as a demonic cultivator. "Elder, with irrefutable evidence before us, will you still shield your disciple?" I asked weakly. "My current strength falls short of casting time reversal, leaving me completely defenseless now." Seeing Xander's livid expression, I knew his fury had reached its breaking point. "What an imposing senior sister you are. Is it just because I brought Violet back that you're jealous of her, that I could overlook, but harming Violet, that I'll never forgive?" Immortal Lord Xander unleashed terrifying spiritual pressure. The tribulation transcendence realms might bearing down on me. "Arwen, as the pure sect's head disciple, you've shown ruthless cruelty and framed your fellow disciples. By the sect master's authority, I shall execute you where you stand." Already weakened beyond measure, I stood no chance against the crushing pressure of a tribulation stage cultivator's aura. Within minutes, the overwhelming force drove me to my knees, yet my head remained unbowed as I declared with defiant dignity, "Immortal Venerable Xander, this disciple rejects your accusations." My gaze remained steely as I met Xander's murderous glare, tasting nothing but bitter irony in this moment. "The righteous sect's paramount leader, a tribulation stage sovereign, now you'd slaughter your own prodigy for some demonic cultivator." I pressed my advantage, though I held no illusions of awakening his conscience, but to expose this matter publicly, making Xander the target of public condemnation in this lifetime. Xander's furious expression softened slightly as his emotions gradually stabilized. The frail Violet in his arms pleaded in a weak voice, "Master, don't blame senior sister, she didn't mean to." Before she could finish, she collapsed weakly into Xander's arms and fell silent. Xander gasped in shock, then after a moment of grief, drew his soulbound sword and lunged at me. He gave none of us even a moment to react. Even I couldn't dodge in time. The blade pierced my shoulder blade instantly, sending waves of pain through my body. A pained grunt escaped my lips as a trickle of blood seeped from the corner of my mouth. "Consider this a warning. Harm Violet again, and the consequences will be far worse." With that, Xander carried Violet back to his mountain abode. He never explained why Violet practiced forbidden cultivation techniques. As one of only 2 tribulation transcendents in the flawless sect, he answered to none but the sect master himself. Watching his retreating figure, I finally collapsed, my strength utterly spent as darkness claimed me. "Senior sister, my junior disciples hurriedly helped me up and escorted me back to my cave abode for proper recuperation. Fortunately, as the sect leader's personal disciple, I had unrestricted access to the sect's most potent healing elixirs. Within a month, my injuries had completely healed without a trace. My innate talent had always been exceptional, so I wisely avoided provoking Xander and his disciples during this period. After that night's incident, the disciples' reverence for Immortal Venerable Xander has noticeably diminished. Meanwhile, I've been dutifully managing the sect affairs in place of our secluded sect master. I know the sect master will emerge during the Immortal Assembly, but without achieving the Great Ascension realm. That's why Xander dared to abandon our sect so brazenly in our past life. He even managed to tarnish flawless sect's reputation as treacherous villains, but with evidence of Violet harming fellow disciples in this lifetime, such disgrace won't repeat itself. As the top prodigy of the flawless sect, all cultivation resources naturally flowed to me. I even had dedicated alchemists crafting elixirs tailored to my cultivation needs. My cultivation advanced by leaps and bounds, and I was on the verge of breaking through to the Golden Core realm. On the eve of my seclusion, after settling the sect's trivial affairs, that person I'd been deliberately avoiding came to see me again. Before my cave abode knelt a woman in white robes, her face deathly pale and her expression utterly drained. She crawled toward me on her knees, clutching my robe hem as she pleaded, "Senior sister, I beg you, please don't reveal what happened. I never meant to practice forbidden arts. You know how hard cultivation is for a mortal like me. I only resorted to those techniques out of desperation. I couldn't bear to disappoint our master." As I studied her desperate expression, a persistent question gnawed at me. Why does this woman always have it out for me? In my past life, fine, they were just using me as a scapegoat, but this lifetime, her practice of forbidden arts is common knowledge in the sect. Now she comes begging for my help. Even her master's intervention would be useless, so I merely glanced at her before turning to return to my cave for cultivation. Breaking through to the Golden Core stage, there's absolutely no room for error. Just as I stepped into my cave abode, Violet's eyes flashed crimson, a dark tendril shot from her arm, lancing straight toward the back of my skull. Good thing I'd kept my guard up. Her ambush failed. I whirled around as the inky thread hovered before my face. Dissolving into nothingness in an instant, Violet's delicate frame suddenly radiated seduction. With a sultry gaze, she purred, "Quick reflexes. Pity you dismissed all your cave guards for seclusion. Even if I strike now, not even the gods would know." In an instant, Violet unleashed her Golden Core cultivation, accompanied by an eerie aura, a demonic cultivator. I narrowed my eyes, concealing the shock in their depths. Violet from the past life shouldn't have reached the Golden Core stage by now. What did she obtain to accelerate her cultivation at such an insane pace? But I'm certain only Xander knows the truth behind this anomaly. In our previous life, he wasn't surprised when discovering Violet's murders. He must have known her identity as a demonic cultivator all along. Does this mean without my intervention, Xander would have sought other victims' life essence to fuel Violet's cultivation? My expression turned frostier as Violet's assault came mid-thought, fingering my spatial ring, a smirk played on my lips. Golden Core realm or not, I've got treasures to spare. The clash erupted instantly, though my cave's barrier rendered the battle invisible to low-level cultivators, but Xander would undoubtedly see everything unfolding here. I deliberately held back, resorting to flinging countless treasures to fend off Violet's assaults. "Surrender now, and I'll make your death quick." Violet fought with reckless abandon, her earlier frailty gone. Now she grew fiercer with each strike. She had fully embraced her dark cultivation, her features twisted into eerie allure, her attacks laced with vampiric threads that drained lifeblood. Dodging her attack once more, I feigned exhaustion, dropping to one knee while clutching my chest, staring at her in feigned shock. "Aren't you afraid your master will find out?" I asked pointedly, already knowing the answer. Find out? "So what if she does?" Violet cackled wildly, her fingers curling into claws as she lunged straight for my skull. "This time, with you gone, no one in the flawless sect will dare stand in my way." Her venomous words still echoed in my ears at this critical moment. A faint glow shielded my body, completely deflecting Violet's attack. She stared at me in disbelief, frustration dripping from her voice. "How are you still alive? How dare you harm my disciple?" Upon hearing this, Violet instantly reverted to her usual frail demeanor, her trembling body collapsing to the ground as she began sobbing quietly. I rose slowly as a wizened figure flashed overhead, landing before Violet with a menacing glare. Abandoning her pitiful act, Violet gasped in shock. "You dare leave seclusion during your great ascension breakthrough? For cultivators, closed-door meditation lasts at least a year or two, sometimes centuries, let alone when attempting a major realm breakthrough." I calmly approached the sect leader and murmured, "Have you ever seen a master who doesn't leave a trace of their spiritual consciousness on their disciple?" Probably only that bastard Xander. Back when I first became the sect leader's disciple, he implanted a strand of his spiritual consciousness in me to ensure he could intervene during my moments of crisis. Though that's because my consciousness remained intact when my previous self was refined into an essence. I know Violet's cultivation techniques and weaknesses like the back of my hand. With my current strength, I could fight Violet to a mutual standstill despite her Golden Core stage, but with my master by my side, why should I put myself through such misery? When immortal Xander struck before, it wasn't lethal, that's why my master didn't notice. But now, you're genuinely trying to kill me, I said with venomous sarcasm. My dissatisfaction with Xander and his disciple grows by the day. Violet's face darkened. While she could play dumb to fool other disciples, the flawless sex leader was a genuine tribulation stage cultivator. Combined with the earlier battle, Violet couldn't possibly conceal her demonic cultivation aura. I let out a cold chuckle, then the sect leader's voice rang in my ears. "A demonic cultivator, sneaking into our flawless sect and slaughtering our disciples, you deserve death." The sect master showed no mercy. Anyone who harmed his sect was his sworn enemy. especially when it involved his most treasured disciple. Violet sneered. Kill me? Do you even know who I am? Just another demonic cultivator, I retorted. Their cultivation was built upon countless lives. I felt no pity for their demise. After all, I'd been one of their victims in my past life. What's wrong with refining cultivation through human essence? Violet shot back without elaboration, though a pained expression flickered across her face. I'd planned to turn your flawless sect into my nourishment, but it seems that won't be happening now. But do you dare kill me? Her expression suddenly radiated absolute confidence. She looked like a complete lunatic. The sect master snorted coldly, insolent. As he spoke, a surge of powerful spiritual energy shot from his palm straight toward Violet, yet Violet showed no trace of nervousness. Instead, she smirked triumphantly. I watched coldly from the sidelines, and just as expected, when Violet was on the brink of death, the ethereal immortal venerable Xander made his appearance. He shielded Violet, his face contorted with fury as he demanded in that same disappointed tone, Lior, have you lost your mind? You dare attempt to kill my disciple, Lior, the Taoist title of the sect leader, standing beside the sect leader. I chose to remain silent under the protection of this powerful ally. Your disciple, why don't you ask what mischief she's been up to? The sect leader's icy voice lashed at Xander, his disdain now evident in every glance. What could a defenseless woman possibly do? Clearly you master and disciple conspired to bully her, Xander fumed, hurling baseless accusations at us. I couldn't help but laugh. You can't wake someone who's pretending to sleep, bullying her. It's your prized disciple who tried to kill mine, and to think he'd even practice such demonic arts. That boy remains a threat to our flawless sect as long as he draws breath. The sect master's gaze turned icy as he continued, as an elder elevated by the flawless sect's patronage. Surely you wouldn't shield such wrongdoing. Xander wasn't some outsider turned elder, but a true-born disciple of the flawless sect, a sworn brother from the sect master's own generation. Though his current cultivation had reached the tribulation transcendence realm through personal merit, just one step from the pinnacle, none of this would have been possible without the flawless sect's foundational support. After centuries of raising you, even a dog should show some gratitude, but Xander felt otherwise. To him, the flawless sect had become nothing but a burden. I am one of only 2 tribulation elders in the flawless sect, Xander declared with confidence. Cradling Violet while casting a disdainful glance at the sect leader, the sect nurtured me for a century, and I've shielded it for just as long. My debt is repaid, yet you, who've relied on my tribulation stage status to cultivate in peace, show no gratitude. Now you dare force my disciple to her death. Disgraceful. Immortal venerable Xander's face twisted in anguish as his sword carried him aloft above the sect. Violet in his arms had already sized up the situation and pretended to faint. Xander's words, deliberately infused with spiritual energy, had already reverberated throughout the entire cultivation world. This caused an uproar among countless onlookers, with all the prominent figures from various sects and sacred lands staring in astonishment at the figure in the sky. What's happening? Immortal venerable Xander is in such profound grief. What unspeakable crime has the flawless sect committed to drive someone to this extreme? Could be that immortal venerable Xander intends to leave the flawless sect this time. Most of them took malicious delight in the situation, with only a rare few feeling genuine regret, yet this wouldn't stop them from courting this tribulation transcendence stage. Immortal venerable, after all, tribulation transcendence are rare in the cultivation world. Any sect that possesses one instantly becomes peerless, and the flawless sect has 2. No wonder other sects are green with envy. They're practically salivating for the flawless sect to tear itself apart in internal strife. I observed the scene with detached calm, having long anticipated this turn of events, but this time, his departure won't bring any harm to the flawless sect, because in this life, the sect leader won't perish during his ascension to true immortal due to guilt over failing to protect me and driving Xander away, and I won't meet my end because of Xander's selfish favoritism. So I'm more than happy to see him leave the sect post-haste. With this cancer removed from our sect, I can lead us to greater glory. But the sect leader was fuming, his face crimson as he mounted his flying sword to confront Xander. Xander, you're spouting nonsense. Why don't you mention how your disciple practices forbidden arts? The sect leader bellowed, channeling more spiritual energy into his voice. He was determined to outshout Xander. The onlookers were utterly stunned by this revelation. You're lying. My apprentice is just an ordinary mortal. How could she possibly be a dark cultivator? This is clearly the flawless sect's persecution because they can't tolerate outsiders, Xander retorted while cradling Violet. The crowd observed the barely conscious woman in his arms. She certainly didn't resemble a dark practitioner. Their confusion only deepened in that moment. I saw with my own eyes that she was trying to kill my disciple. How could it be fake? If I hadn't kept a trick up my sleeve, I'd have come out of seclusion only to find Arwen's corpse, the sect master fumed, his beard bristling with rage. If only he had the strength, he'd have beaten Xander to a pulp too. The crowd was utterly baffled. As cultivators from a major sect at the Tribulation Transcendence stage, they saw no reason to harass mortals. Perhaps the woman truly was suspicious. The onlookers decided to keep watching, extending their spiritual senses to monitor the situation. Lies. Violet's the kindest soul, she could never be a demonic cultivator. Xander's gaze turned glacial, a murderous glint flashing in his eyes as his arms tightened around Violet. The sect master, noticing this reaction, felt his boiling rage dissipate instantly. His voice came out hoarse. "So you're determined to shield this demonic cultivator woman, is that it?" My heart skipped a beat. The sect master was clearly preparing to abandon Xander, of course, as leader of the flawless sect. Even a tribulation elder's importance paled against the safety of the sect's disciples. Keeping such a malignant tumor within our sect is a risk even the sect master dares not take. My eyes gleamed as I scanned the crowd below, searching for another victim of Violet's cruelty to fan the flames. I brought the young disciple forward and declared to the sect master, "Master, this junior brother was also violated." The entire sect witnessed it. The sect master gasped, hastily pulling the disciple closer to reveal two still bleeding crimson scars on his shoulder. "This is the wicked cultivation technique." The sect master's face darkened like a burnt pot. Taking a deep breath, he said to Xander, "As former martial brothers, I'll give you one last chance. Will you still shield him?" He had assumed that after all these years, Xander would have gained better judgment to distinguish priorities, yet Xander, blinded by personal grievances, retorted coldly, "These are just your tactics to hound my disciple to death. A sect so devoid of honor isn't worth my allegiance. From this day forth, I sever all ties with your flawless sect. Consider our bond non-existent. Mark my words, when Violet triumphs at the upcoming Immortal Assembly, don't come crying with regrets." Without sparing the flawless sect a single courtesy, Xander turned on his heel and strode away with Violet in his arms. Only the sect master seemed genuinely disheartened. He placed a hand on my shoulder and sighed. "Go now, the flawless sect will still need you in the days to come." I nodded and followed the sect master back to his cave abode. The flawless sect members stood silent as cicadas in winter. Not a single soul spoke to detain us. Demon practitioners deserved death at every righteous hand. That day's events became etched in many witnesses' memories, whether they were disciples of the flawless sect, passers-by outside its walls, or even the leaders of other sects. Everyone came to understand the full story. The rumor mill went into overdrive. Could immortal venerable Xander truly be shielding demonic cultivators? You bet. My aunt's relative who works at Flawless Sect saw with their own eyes that woman turning into a demonic cultivator and harming people. As a sect elder, there's no way you wouldn't understand something this basic. I don't buy it. Maybe it's just internal sect conflict. They probably made up an excuse to kick her out. Neither the gossip outside nor the silent tension within the sect could shake my determination to grow stronger. Though immortal venerable Xander brought this upon himself, the flawless sect has ultimately lost to Tribulation Transcendent, with half our elite combat strength gone in an instant, if I don't step up. How can the flawless sect maintain its position as the top sect? That leaves me no choice but to seize the opportunities meant for those two. My formidable spiritual essence gives me the edge. In my past life, Violet couldn't fully refine me even at the Golden Core stage, yet carried me across the cultivation world. Every opportunity they obtained, I witnessed it all through divine sense. The process was painful, but the outcome was worth it. These past few days, I've been leading our sect disciples through perilous trials to prepare for the upcoming Immortal Sect Tournament. The Immortal Sect Tournament, held every century, pits elite cultivators from various sects against each other in combat, determining which sect gains control over more resource-rich territories. So these prodigies aren't just fighting for their sects, they're fighting for their own futures. In her past life, Violet reached the Golden Core stage during the Immortal Sect competition. Combined with her unorthodox cultivation methods, she effortlessly claimed the championship. The flawless sect's leader grew even more remorseful upon hearing this, believing he'd misjudged a truly exceptional talent. Little did he know, her so-called talent and diligence were built upon my corpse, feasting on my very soul. This realization made me redouble my efforts to gather resources. The sect is regularly stocked with magical artifacts, treasures, and elixirs I've collected. With the Grand Sect competition approaching, all these resources have been distributed to our disciples. I hope they'll give it their all. Opportunities like this don't come often. Secluded cultivation was tedious work. Only after seizing every recorded opportunity did I finally prepare to break through to the Golden Core realm. In what felt like an instant, the eve of the Grand Sect competition arrived. As I opened my eyes again, an ineffable aura enveloped my body. The spiritual energy in my dantian had liquefied and gradually condensed into a perfectly round golden elixir, the golden core stage. Just as expected, to consolidate my cultivation, I rose and left the cave abode, leading newly emerged disciples to venture out for battle once more. Along the way, we gathered considerable intelligence. The transcendent sage remains unaffiliated, drawing recruitment efforts from major sects. Yet rumors spread of this peerless immortal destroying an entire mortal city for a woman's sake. Later, he annihilated a minor sect, again over a woman. Then came the incident where someone offended Sage Xander's disciple, resulting in limb severing and banishment to the abyss. That's the ancient dwelling place of the demonic clans. Upon learning this, major sects began deliberately avoiding Xander and his disciples. Only minor sects sought his protection, offering most of their resources just to secure Xander's patronage. But soon after, Xander and his disciples vanished without a trace, becoming mere occasional whispers in the cultivation world. Learning of these matters left me utterly unfazed. My cultivation has now reached greater solidity. With but a thought, I could break through to the peak of Golden Core realm, perhaps even step into nascent soul. Yet to build a stronger foundation, I've deliberately held back my breakthrough, using those spirit beasts and resources solely to temper myself until reaching this pinnacle. At the peak of Golden Core, I could easily have claimed victory in past immortal sect tournaments. During this period, my prestige within the sect skyrocketed. After all, I'd brought back vast cultivation resources and was mentoring disciples without masters. Now everyone respectfully addresses me as senior sister. Only one person remembered my kindness in gifting those talismans and sought to become my disciple. It was that junior brother from before. This disciple humbly requests to study under senior sister. He's truly grateful, assessing his cultivation level, freshly broken through to foundation establishment. I'm certainly qualified to be his master, I asked, with so many elders in the sect, and me being your peer. You won't learn much from me. The junior disciple shook his head. Senior sister saved my life. Serving under you is my willing choice. Understanding his meaning, I nodded. I'll need to consult my master about this matter. After the Grand Sect tournament, if the sect leader approves, I'll take you as my disciple. When the time comes to lead the sect, I'll truly need a capable right hand. The junior brother left in high spirits. I stood before another cave abode where my master was in seclusion attempting the great ascension to true immortality. In my hands lay a wooden box containing the cultivation holy grail coveted by countless cultivators across the immortal realm, Ascension Blossom. This flower aids in the breakthrough to true immortality. When refined during the heavenly tribulation, it creates a perceptual error in the lightning judgment, making the heavens believe the cultivator has already achieved immortal form, thereby weakening the power of the heavenly tribulation. This rare treasure was something I'd only heard about in my past life during Xander and Violet's casual conversation. Now it's my master who gets to benefit from it. With a smile, I placed the wooden box at the entrance of the cave abode, along with all the magical artifacts and instruments for overcoming heavenly tribulations. Master, these are all the fortuitous encounters I've gathered recently. Please use whatever you need. Consider it this disciple's humble offering. After speaking these words respectfully, I took my leave from the master and descended the mountain with fellow disciples to attend the Immortal Sect Assembly. The Immortal Sect Conference is held on a floating island, featuring vast open spaces and breathtaking scenery, the perfect venue for tournament arenas and seating arrangements. Our nascent soul and deity transformation elders escorted us disciples to participate. When the Immortal Sect Conference begins, countless sects send their most talented disciples to vie for prestige and standing. This inevitably attracts malicious cultivators with ill intentions, necessitating protection for these prodigious youths. The sect typically dispatches numerous elite cultivators as escorts. In previous years, it was Immortal Venerable Xander who escorted us disciples to the competition, while the sect master remained at headquarters. But now with Xander gone, these duties have fallen upon their shoulders. Fortunately, the journey was uneventful, and we arrived safely at the Immortal Gate Assembly. Look, that's the head disciple of the Flawless Sect, truly a prodigious talent. They say she reached foundation establishment at just 16, 2 years have passed, who knows what realm she's attained now. What good is genius when it's paired with treachery? A jarring voice cut through the crowd. Turning toward the sound, I saw an unfamiliar face. He vented angrily to the crowd, surely you've all heard about Arwen of the Flawless Sect switching masters. When Immortal Venerable Xander merely wanted to take his lifesaver as a disciple, she grew jealous. Convinced he'd lost interest in mentoring her, she went and apprenticed herself to someone else. Do you know who that someone else is? The Flawless Sect's Grandmaster. That's why I strongly suspect Immortal Venerable Xander was forced out by those master and disciple schemers. With a faint smile, I followed the elders to our designated seating area reserved for the Flawless Sect. Only a handful of sects shared the same prestigious front-row seating as ours. My deliberate indifference only fueled his increasingly aggressive behavior. I watched clearly as he spread malicious rumors through the crowd, accusing me of betraying immortal Xander and driving him to abandon our sect with his life-saving benefactor. Seeing those people wavering, my junior brother, who wanted to become my disciple, began fidgeting impatiently. Eldest senior sister, let me teach him a lesson. With that, my junior brother moved to confront him. I stopped him. Don't stir up trouble. Everything will be settled after the Immortal Sect tournament. As I spoke, a wisp of purple lightning coiled around my fingertip before I flicked it away. A piercing scream erupted from the crowd. The troublemaker's once lustrous black hair now stood in disheveled tufts. Who dares ambush me? Just wait till I summon my clan elder to teach you a lesson. Then his gaze locked onto mine as we stood face to face. A mischievous smirk played on my lips. Which sect do you belong to, disciple? Don't you know liars invite heavenly retribution? My words visibly made his face flush crimson with rage, yet he kept shouting defiantly, is there no justice left? Just because you're from a major sect, you think you can bully us minor sects at will? His outburst silenced the entire crowd, because truth be told, that's exactly how things stood. Ignoring this fool's impotent rage, I was quietly awaiting the arrival of the cultivation sect's prodigies when my peripheral vision caught something unsettling. The troublemaking disciple who'd been spreading rumors earlier, a sinister black thread slithered across his body like a serpent. Suddenly, a booming voice announced, the Celestial Spirit Sect has arrived. I frowned. This sect's name was unfamiliar. When had they emerged? As I took in the hierarchy of their sect, a flash of understanding crossed my eyes. The leader of the Celestial Spirit Sect was none other than immortal Venerable Xander, who had previously departed from the Flawless Sect. By his side walked a delicate woman clinging to his arm, sweetly addressing him as master. The troublemaking disciple quickly scurried behind the Celestial Spirit Sect members and took a seat with them. Isn't that immortal Venerable Xander? No wonder the Celestial Spirit Sect never participated in the Immortal Tournament before, but now they're joining. Wait, isn't the Immortal Tournament for junior disciples? No matter how powerful he is, it can't change the fact that the Celestial Spirit Sect lacks capable candidates. The crowd buzzed with speculation, perplexed by Xander's unexpected move. A thought struck me as I glanced toward the Celestial Spirit Sect's direction, where Violet still wore that provocative smirk while meeting my gaze. She puts on such a frail act in public, yet suddenly becomes full of energy when facing me. What's her game anyway? Rolling my eyes, I suddenly noticed every Celestial Spirit Sect member had the same barely visible black thread around their necks, just like that troublemaking disciple. Turning back to Violet, I saw her already snuggling into Xander's arms, cooing like a spoiled kitten. A chill ran down my spine as Violet's words from that day outside the cave dwelling still echoed in my ears. I had planned to turn your Flawless Sect into my nourishment, but it seems that won't be possible now. These were Violet's exact words that day. She intended to seize the entire Flawless Sect while the sect master was in seclusion, just as she's doing now with the Celestial Spirit Sect. Fortunately, I exposed her scheme, but in our past lives, did she plant these dark threads within the bodies of Flawless Sect disciples too, to serve as her secret nourishment? At this thought, my gaze toward Violet grew even more contemptuous. I'd meant to warn the Celestial Spirit Sect leader, but the Immortal Sect tournament had already begun. Besides, given his reverence for immortal Venerable Xander, he likely wouldn't believe me even if I spoke up. Noticing my mood, the junior brother asked, what's wrong, senior sister? That dark cultivator who harmed you is now with the Tianling sect, I said calmly. He's about to represent them in the grand tournament. What? The junior brother jumped in shock. He still suffered lingering effects from that incident. Glancing toward the Tianling sect's area, he spotted Violet. His pupils contracted as he asked me gravely, senior sister, should we report this to the elders overseeing the tournament? The Immortal Sect Grand Tournament shall be presided over by last edition's champion sect. Alternatively, we could warn the Celestial Spirit Sect to be on their guard. The junior brother couldn't bear to see others suffer his same fate. He was fortunate to be rescued, but others might not be so lucky. Our conversation didn't escape the notice of other Flawless Sect members. Following their gaze, they indeed spotted Violet, and immediately the disciples began avoiding the Celestial Spirit Sect like the plague. The rumor-mongering junior disciple noticed our reaction and deliberately raised his voice. As expected of a great sect, looking down on folks from backwater regions like us, look how far they're keeping from us, as if we're some kind of monsters. This was clearly an exaggeration. Out of respect for immortal Venerable Xander, the Celestial Spirit Sect was seated in the second-tier section, merely a diagonal away from us, though seated in positions of honor. We couldn't simply rise and leave no matter how much we wished to avoid this. His outburst drew all eyes toward us, not that the current arena match between obscure junior disciples held much interest anyway, only relatives and low-ranking cultivators bothered watching those lackluster bouts. Now the crowd's attention shifted here, instantly noticing how our sect's disciples recoiled from the Celestial Spirit sect members. Everyone began murmuring in bewilderment. Why would a major sect have any reason to fear minor sects when everything was perfectly fine? Could it be that immortal Venerable Xander took the prodigies of the Flawless sect with him when he left? If that's not the case, then the Flawless sect truly looks down on everyone, looking down on us country bumpkins. These words instantly inflamed the more sensitive listeners, who began loudly accusing the Flawless sect of looking down on them. Such disgraceful behavior for a supposedly noble sect. Immortal Venerable Xander sneered at the scene. The Flawless sect remains as hypocritical as ever. Leaving that place was clearly the right decision. Nestled in his arms, Violet chimed in, Master is absolutely right. If not for your timely rescue, they would have driven me to my death. She then put on a pitiful act, burying her face in Xander's chest while shedding crocodile tears. This spectacle enraged the entire Celestial Spirit sect, who seemed particularly protective of Violet. Violet is no longer part of your Flawless sect. We won't tolerate any further bullying. The Celestial Spirit sect will protect them with our lives. You're blind to true talent. None of you recognize Violet's genius. The uproar from the Celestial Spirit sect and those minor factions means nothing to me. They're beneath my notice. Even the major sects could see the truth, yet they chose to remain silent, while the truly powerful may keep their composure. That doesn't mean the juniors in our sect can stay calm. My junior brother beside me wouldn't be restrained. He lashed up furiously, shouting at them, defend demonic cultivators today, and you'll become their next meal tomorrow. See these 2 red marks on my neck? She did this. If not for our senior sister's intervention, I'd be 6 feet under by now. The junior brother yanked open his collar, glaring at Violet with pure hatred. Your admiration for this woman means nothing to our Flawless sect. His booming voice rivaled that sect leader's from the other day, instantly silencing the entire crowd. The others knew better than to provoke him further, so they grudgingly returned to watching the tournament. Meanwhile, the Tianling sect members glared at us with undisguised hostility. Seeing their reaction, Violet must have really poisoned their minds. No wonder their sect had been so united against us earlier. They dared to slander us right to our sect's face. I shot them a cold glance before retrieving several talismans from my robe and handing them to my junior disciple. Distribute these boundary water talismans to every participating disciple. Make sure they carry them on their person at all times. I gave him firm instructions. With memories from my past life, I knew Violet's weakness better than anyone. A single boundary water talisman would suffice. If Violet dares to practice dark magic in secret, she'll be exposed in front of everyone. All right. The junior brother acknowledged, taking the talismans to distribute them one by one. During this time, I'd brought back no shortage of rare treasures. Every talented disciple in our sect has received gifts from me before, so they've grown accustomed to these protective talismans. They simply see it as their senior sister's duty to provide them with life-saving measures. Only after confirming everyone was wearing theirs did I finally look away. The announcer had already called Violet's name. Violet, enter the arena. That announcement revealed her full name. Turns out she did have a proper given name after all. Violet stood ethereal in white robes upon the dueling platform, facing a core disciple from a major sect at the peak of Foundation establishment, a prodigy in his own right, but doomed. I knew he stood no chance against her. When we dueled 2 years ago, Violet was already at Golden Core Realm, after draining so many cultivators' essence. She's probably reached nascent soul by now. Sensing my own cultivation at Golden Core's zenith, I smirked. This Violet identity would be my ticket to fame. The clamor of the crowd snapped me out of my thoughts. With a single sword stroke, Violet sent the sect's elite disciple flying off the arena. The Celestial Spirit sect members erupted in uncontrollable cheers. Now it was Violet's turn to defend the arena. Just 5 more victorious challenges would secure her advancement, as expected. The next challenger, a prodigious talent at the early Golden Core stage, was likewise sent flying off the arena with a single strike from Violet's sword. Upon closer inspection, Violet's cultivation had astonishingly reached the pinnacle of the Golden Core realm. Violet, Violet, the arena erupted in cheers for her. Xander lounged casually in his seat, remarking with amusement, "Some fools can't even recognize a priceless jade when they see one." An 18-year-old Golden Core prodigy, your head disciple probably peaked at that level too. To mistake Violet for some common mortal, utterly ridiculous. Faced with his sarcastic jabs, hot-blooded sect disciples nearly retorted, only to be silenced by their elders. They knew better than to stir trouble without their sect leader present, even if the reigning champion sect had tribulation transcendence among them. Such power wouldn't be lent unconditionally. Unless Xander directly sabotages the Immortal Sect tournament, what a bunch of hypocritical cowards, Xander sneered, his icy gaze sweeping over us. I calmly replied, had the Immortal Venerable any self-awareness about taking pride in such dark arts, he'd never have uttered those words. What difference remains between humans who practice forbidden arts and the demons of the abyss? I met his murderous glare with steady composure. The crowd's gaze remained fixed on the stage. This marked Violet's fourth consecutive challenge. True to form, another Golden Core prodigy was swiftly defeated by her hand. Xander smirked triumphantly from his elevated seat as roaring cheers erupted from the spectators. Any suspicions about Violet being a demonic cultivator were momentarily forgotten, for straight victories spoke for themselves. All her opponents are merely at the early Golden Core stage. This last is a true prodigy. One more victory and she'll advance. Shall we send our sect's top genius to challenge her? True connoisseurs of talent wouldn't rob others of their opportunities. We're not petty like some people. Now our flawless sect has become the laughingstock of the major sect leaders. With a cold sneer, I was about to step onto the platform when a figure darted past me onto the arena. It was our sect's second-ranked prodigy, a mid-stage Golden Core cultivator. The crowd's cheers finally died down as he stepped onto the field, leaving only hushed whispers drifting through the arena. After a brief hesitation, I took my seat. Might as well let this guy expose Violet as the dark practitioner she was. By then, if Xander still defended Violet, he'd truly become public enemy number one. I chuckled and kept watching the match from the platform, paying no mind to the gossip swirling around. In an instant, that prodigy engaged Violet in a fierce duel with his own combat techniques. I noticed every fighter who'd crossed blades with Violet bore a thin black line across their necks. Greed truly knows no bounds even with such cultivation. They still scheme for more right under everyone's noses. True to form, within moments Violet made her move against our sect's chosen elite. The junior brother asked anxiously, "Senior sister, will our brother be all right?" I shook my head, no. This match will likely be voided. My sharp eyes caught a black thread shooting from Violet's finger straight toward that prodigy's artery. In an instant, the entire arena froze in shock. A deathly silence fell. The black thread vanished the moment it touched Tinjio's neck, while Violet, having triggered the mirror water talisman's effect, was forcibly reverted to her true form. On the arena, Violet's dark eyes turned blood red. Her ears grew pointed, and eerie black patterns emerged across her entire body. Some even crept onto her cheeks. Her crimson eyes widened in shock. Impossible. Even a fool like Violet knew never to reveal her true identity during the Immortal Sect tournament. Glancing at the talisman beneath the prodigy's feet, she roared, "A mirror water talisman. It exposes all wickedness. Why would you bring this to a duel against righteous cultivators?" The crowd's gazes toward Violet had transformed, no longer admiration or excitement, but pure suspicion, terror, and revulsion. Dark cultivator, she's a dark cultivator, kill her now. Those who practice forbidden arts are all wicked. Her cultivation was built on human lives. How many more must die if we let her live? The arena erupted in waves of condemnation, all demanding her death. Whoosh! Two figures materialized above the Grand Immortal Tournament, hovering midair as they thundered with righteous fury. Heretic cultivators, you shall perish. These were tribulation-transcendent immortals overseeing the tournament, the very pillars of their respective sects. With their long swords poised to pierce Violet's body, they were abruptly stopped by Immortal Venerable Xander. His icy gaze swept across the crowd as he declared, "My disciple, let's see who dares lay a finger on her." Like finding sanctuary, Violet swiftly took refuge behind Xander's back. I approached the arena to help the petrified disciple to his feet, intending to lead him away when an unexpected obstruction occurred. A long sword suddenly embedded itself in the ground before me. It felt familiar. That was his bonded sword. The next instant, Immortal Venerable Xander's voice boomed from above, "Arwen, what dark sorcery have you used to frame my disciple?" I halted mid-step, staring at him in disbelief. "Are you blind, Venerable Xander, or is it just your eyes that fail you, not your judgment?" With so many witnesses seeing Violet reveal her true form, blaming me now is utterly absurd. My retort turned Xander's face as dark as a burnt pot, yet he still landed on the arena and picked up the shattered talisman from the ground. "Back in the sect, you framed Violet out of sheer jealousy, and now, isn't it her superior talent that drove you to murderous intent?" He held up the broken talisman, staring at me. "This is the proof. So what cursed charm did you use to alter Violet's appearance?" He kept pressing forward, refusing to acknowledge Violet's identity as a demonic cultivator. The two tribulation stage elders frowned deeply seeing Xander shielding his disciple so fiercely. They examined the talisman and said, "Xander, this is just an ordinary mirror water talisman. Are you letting your protectiveness cloud your judgment?" "Impossible. I couldn't possibly be mistaken." It was Arwen who framed my disciple. If not for her, my Violet would never have become like this. Clutching the demonically transformed Violet, Xander screamed at me with raw desperation. You're just jealous of her talent. I know it. Ever since the sect days, you've resented me for taking her as my disciple. Arwen, you're taking this too far. A flash of murderous intent flickered in his eyes. Had it not been for those two tribulation transcendents standing guard, I'd probably be dead by now. I patted the prodigy's shoulder to dismiss him, then calmly met Xander's gaze. You think I'm jealous of her talent? Then let's settle this in a duel. We'll see who's truly superior. Violet's eyes gleamed with excitement. Excellent. How about a fight to the death? The loser pays with their life. A bloodthirsty glint flashed in her eyes. I've always known dark cultivators are murderous by nature. Fine, I responded, drawing my life-bound sword. Xander glared coldly at me. Since you're courting death, don't blame me for what comes next. The other two tribulation transcendents approached me, their eyes filled with concern, but they ultimately remained silent despite their parted lips. Their cultivation simply couldn't match Xander's, the former prodigy who once stood above all. Even among tribulation cultivators there are power gaps. Their fight with Xander would be catastrophic. With no guarantee of victory, if I can win this, they'll at least have shut Xander up with their verbal sparring. They might even rally the entire cultivation world to launch a crusade. Suddenly all eyes in the Immortal Sect tournament were upon us. On the arena, Violet stared at me like I was her next meal. Dark threads coiled around her 5 fingers. She wasn't even trying to hide her sinister intent. I sneered. You're the first demonic cultivator bold enough to stand among the crowd. Must be nice having a blind master to cover for you. Violet remained unshaken. That's envy talking. You covet having someone wholly devoted to me while you have nothing. All those years slaving for Flawless Sect. Did a single soul speak for you? Did anyone step forward to duel me in your place? Meeting the anxious gazes of the Flawless Sect members, I smiled faintly. Against you, I alone am more than enough. With those words, I raised my sword and launched my attack. In my past life, I'd spent every waking moment with those two despicable people, even witnessing Violet's cultivation firsthand. I know every single one of her flaws and weaknesses like the back of my hand. Just as expected, my single strike sent Violet staggering back a dozen paces, yet she didn't panic, instead flashing a triumphant smirk. Know what I hate most about you? I snapped coldly. Spare me the theatrics, your pretentious act. That's what I can't stand. With a sudden flourish of her arms, Violet unleashed inky black threads that came at me from all directions. Frowning slightly, I swung my sword to sever them, only for the dark ribbons to stretch and coil toward me again. In an instant, the entire arena was overrun with writhing black tendrils. Haha, these soul-devouring strands are tailor-made to counter your lightning techniques. Just wait to die, Violet sneered with twisted glee. Her face contorted into a terrifying mask of excitement. The surrounding spectators gasped in horror at the sight. She really is a dark cultivator. Is Xander actually going to shield her? A righteous immortal lord actually aiding the wicked? This is utterly despicable. The crowd erupted in curses. Fear had turned to furious rage, and they directed all their wrath at the true culprit. The celestial spirit sect was utterly shocked, even trembling with belated dread. But I knew none of this, trapped as I was within countless dark threads. With no escape in sight, with a cold sneer, I curled my fingers into claws as crackling lightning surged into my palm, then slammed it mercilessly into the ground. In that instant, thunder roared. Crack, zap. A split second later, countless black threads were incinerated by the electric fury. Violet's eyes widened in disbelief as she stared at the scene before her. How could this be? I withdrew the lightning and sneered. Soul-devouring means nothing. My thunder carries the power of heavenly tribulation. Besides, in my past life, I'd already endured the agony of having my soul consumed. Did they really think I wouldn't guard against it this time? I stomped the ground into fragments and charged at her like a bolt of lightning, closing the distance in an instant. Violet stumbled backward in panic, but couldn't escape my grasp on her wrist. I clenched my fist and delivered a crushing blow. The sickening crack of breaking bone echoed across the arena, followed by Violet's piercing scream. Clutching her right shoulder, blood dripped between her fingers as pain beaded cold sweat across her forehead. How dare you strike me? How dare you? Violet glared at me with gnashed teeth, but I felt no pity. Having endured inhuman torment in my past life, this lifetime, I'll repay her in kind. Just as she lunged to attack me again, I kicked her flying midair while binding her with crackling lightning. Violet collapsed at the edge of the ring, her face turning deathly pale from excruciating pain as beads of sweat rolled down her forehead. Just as I was about to strike Violet, Xander intervened. Arwen, lay one finger on her and I'll end you. Xander's icy glare locked onto me as his tribulation stage aura came crushing down. This at least gave Violet a moment's respite. Seizing the moment, She waved toward the celestial spirit sect, and in that instant, piercing shrieks erupted from the seats as every soul she'd secretly marked met their gruesome fate. Countless elders and disciples withered into emaciated corpses, collapsing across the arena. The crowd recoiled in terror, but the two Transcendence Realm experts swiftly restored order. They unleashed their oppressive aura, immobilizing everyone present while incidentally lifting Xander's restriction on me. Now they were truly enraged. "Xander, stop being so obstinate," one of them moved to kill Violet, but Xander still intervened. I heard his voice with crystal clarity. "How dare you lay hands on my disciple?" Xander roared in fury. He tried to charge onto the arena to kill me, but was intercepted by those two Transcendence Realm experts. In an instant, the three combatants soared into the sky and became a whirlwind of clashing steel, though both others had reached the tribulation stage. They were merely at its initial phase, while Xander had already attained its pinnacle. Such a gap could lethally catch opponents off guard. Thus, the crowd hesitated to act against Xander due to his status, resorting to having the sect's strongest cultivator erect a protective barrier instead. The more timid participants had already fled the Immortal Sect tournament. At my signal, the elders of the Flawless Sect swiftly moved to protect the younger disciples. "Eldest senior sister will be fine, we must have faith in her." The youngest disciple clenched his fists as he stared at the arena. The others were equally on edge. Meanwhile, Violet on the ground saw her cultivation surge dramatically as she devoured copious amounts of vital essence and souls. In an instant, she broke through the nascent soul stage, her gaze fixed on me with murderous intent. "Your life is mine." Gripping my life-bound sword tightly, I signaled the elders of my sect to hold back and charged forward alone. The black threads on her hands grew even more frenzied, her attacks eerily unpredictable. Every time I blocked, she'd use my own force to pivot and strike from another angle. It's like having infinite clones. The more I fought, the harder it became. After all, my opponent was a nascent soul cultivator. A sudden wave of danger prickled my senses, sending my alertness skyrocketing. Suddenly, Violet's lips curled into a cruel smirk as she taunted. "Who'd have thought the almighty senior sister would one day become my cultivation resource? Didn't you look down on me? How does it feel to be trampled by someone you despised?" Violet cackled maniacally, with my spiritual senses scanning the battlefield. I instantly leaped dozens of paces away the moment Violet's black threads attempted to ensnare me. Suddenly, Violet's voice whispered in my ear, "Perish." I dodged immediately. She took advantage of my evasion to ambush me. I snapped back to focus, but was a split second too late. Her palm struck my chest. Thud, I was sent flying several meters through the air. Pfft, a mouthful of blood sprayed out. She sneered contemptuously. "So you're merely at the golden core stage." Wiping the blood from my lips, I slowly rose to face her. "Oh really? At least I don't cultivate my power with human lives." I raised my sword, radiating an aura so fierce it seemed capable of splitting the heavens. "Ha!" Violet sneered. "The height of hypocrisy. You righteous cultivators are all utterly hypocritical. You're just hoarding those superior cultivation techniques to keep them from us mortals. Why should only you walk the righteous path? I deserve it too." I sneered contemptuously. "You're unworthy." "Unworthy? Then who is?" "Even your so-called paragon of virtue kneels before my charms," Violet declared with smug satisfaction. "Saving my master when he was wounded, that was my greatest destiny." Dark energy surged from her arm, coiling into a razor-sharp spike. "Consider yourself lucky to witness my newly mastered technique." She lunged at me with terrifying speed, several times faster than before. My eyes narrowed dangerously. Soul-severing needles, her signature move from past lives. Good thing I came prepared for her tricks, even though she's at the nascent soul stage. But who says I can't be? The next instant, countless bolts of lightning gathered in my hand, slowly channeling into the blade. In a flash, the lightning-forged edge came roaring down. The moment they collided, everything exploded. Violet and I staggered backward several steps simultaneously, both spewing mouthfuls of fresh blood. Violet stared at me in shock, clearly unprepared for my ability to match her power. How is this possible?" she exclaimed through gritted teeth. She'd fully expected her soul-annihilating needles would reduce me to ashes, leaving only my essence for her cultivation. Little did she know, I had countless ways to counter her. The final time I withstood Violet's assault, my cultivation naturally advanced to the nascent soul stage through this transcendent battle. "They've already taken precautions against your dark arts. You've got no one left to harvest," I said coldly. "All the sects have tightened their security, barring Violet from approaching." They were visibly awestruck when I reached the nascent soul stage. Yet too fearful of attracting immortal venerable Xander's attention, everyone chose to remain silent. "Violet, even your master is currently pinned down by two other cultivators, so now, it's time for payback." My icy voice reached Violet's ears. Violet remained confident, the outcome still anyone's game, but the ensuing battle proved beyond doubt. She was no match for me. With the final blow, I sent Violet reeling to the edge of the arena, her body drenched in blood. Her crimson eyes burned with hatred as she spat, "If I die, my master will hunt you to the ends of the earth." Ignoring her threat, I gathered crackling lightning in my palm and drove it mercilessly toward her skull. A blood-curdling scream echoed across the battleground, with lightning coursing through her nerves. I whispered like a demon in her ear, "How does it feel to have your soul torn apart? Yet in my past life, I endured this torment for years." The ice in my eyes burned into pure hatred. A glimmer of confusion flickered in Violet's pain-filled eyes before being swallowed by agony. "No, I won't die, master, save me," Violet murmured vacantly, her eyes glazed over. True to form, I severed her tongue, silencing her pleas for help. She could only glare at me with venomous hatred. I withdrew my hand, not out of mercy, but to let her taste the agony of my past life. And what kind of torment did those she murdered endure before their deaths? Just as I was about to enter life, an enraged shout pierced my ears. "Stop, Arwen," Xander roared, mustering all his strength to repel the two tribulation stage cultivators before leaping onto the arena. A palm strike landed square on my chest. My body went flying backward and crashed onto the fighting platform. Senior sister, members of the Flawless sect rushed down to check my injuries, but I was completely unfazed. I'd come prepared, in a flash. I produced a shattered jade pendant from my robe and murmured, "No worries, my master gave me plenty of treasures, like anyone here doesn't have a master." Only then did the disciples relax. Across from us, Xander looked absolutely wrecked. With red-rimmed eyes, he cradled the battered Violet in his arms. "I'll heal you right now." As he spoke, wisps of life energy emanated from his body, instantly bringing color back to Violet's pallid cheeks. Ah, Violet's lips parted soundlessly, no voice escaping her throat. Well, I cut out her tongue. What else could I do when she just screamed master the moment she opened her mouth? Can't just call in the elders every time you lose. What kind of sore loser does that? Violet really is a sore loser. Seeing her pitiful state, Xander directed all his fury at me. "Arwen, after what you've done to my disciple, what possible excuse could you have?" Xander helped Violet up, his icy glare fixed on me. I recognized the murderous intent in his eyes and simply laughed. "Immortal venerable, my stance remains, evil cultivators deserve death by all." "Xander, my apprentice, she's not." His voice cracked, knowing this excuse would find no believers now. With nothing left to lose, he channeled formidable spiritual energy into his palms, leveling it at me. "Anyone who harms Violet will pay with their life. You're no exception." My fellow disciples shielded me, eyeing Xander warily. I stood up unfazed and calmly asked, "Aren't you afraid my master will seek vengeance?" "Xander, that man lives only for the sect. He'd retaliate against me if I vowed to slaughter every last member of your Flawless sect should he dare strike back. Do you think he would? Today, you die abandoned. Not a soul will stand in your defense. Begging won't save you now." He raised his sword, leaving me no chance to survive. Xander even roared, "Anyone who dares stand in my way will have their sect destroyed next," and he absolutely had the power to do it. The others remained silent. Even those two Transcendence Realm cultivators hesitated. All she could do was glare at him with pure loathing. Violet stared at me with venom in her eyes, wishing nothing more than my death at this moment. Facing the threat of death, I pushed aside my junior brother shielding me and said, "Don't worry, I'll be fine." "No way. We'll escort you back to the sect. Once the Grandmaster emerges from seclusion, everything will be fine." I looked at my fellow disciples, their faces filled with concern as they said, "Right, we'll hold them off here. You hurry back to the sect and seek the Grandmaster's protection. You're his target, he won't harm us. Go now." My junior brother grabbed my arm, ready to flee by sword flight. I gazed at them blankly before breaking into a radiant smile. "Don't worry, with Master here, I'll be perfectly safe." "But the sect leader is thousands of miles away," the junior disciple fretted anxiously. I shook my head gently. "Your concern alone means everything." Only then did I feel my efforts hadn't been in vain. Xander truly remained the sole exception within the Flawless sect. Xander, prepare to die. With a single-handed seal, his sword shot through the air straight toward me in an instant, giving me no chance to survive. I shoved aside the disciples surrounding me. I summoned every treasure from my spatial ring to block his attack. Xander sneered, lures being surprisingly generous. With a cold laugh, he lunged at me again. The sheer power of his tribulation stage cultivation left me gasping for air. A thunderous boom erupted. Fortunately, the sect master had equipped me with countless magical artifacts, items capable of blocking tribulation stage attacks or even launching counterstrikes of equivalent power. I desperately deployed these treasures to withstand Xander's relentless assaults. Fortunately, he seemed to enjoy watching me descend into despair step by step without actually striking. Otherwise, I'd have been obliterated in an instant. Must be settling scores and backing Violet up. Violet got her kicks, and I wasn't exactly complaining either, deprived of my last tribulation-grade artifact. I stared at the murderous longsword and screamed, Master, save me. In an instant, a thunderous boom erupted, the sky darkened with ominous clouds as the sect leader's voice carried from afar, an ethereal resonance filled the air. Xander, how dare you cause trouble during my tribulation, you harmed my disciple, just wait till I finish transcending, I'll end you, with just a single telepathic message. Xander's attack was completely nullified. I heaved a sigh of relief. Close call. But everyone else stood dumbstruck, frozen in shock. Even Xander muttered in disbelief. Heavenly tribulation, thunder calamity, a Mahayana immortal. A wave of belated fear hit him as he jerked his head toward the distant horizon. Dark clouds gathered over Wuxia back mountain. Someone was clearly undergoing a heavenly tribulation. Violet trembled violently, clutching Xander's sleeve with an expression of utter disbelief. Then her gaze turned toward me. Burning with jealousy, I could practically read her thoughts. It's just sheer envy. Why do you get all the luck while I'm left with none? Heavenly tribulation. Could the flawless sex leader be attempting the great ascension? Given his overwhelming aura earlier, success seems within reach. A 90% chance of becoming a great ascension immortal, compared to mere tribulation transcendence. The other two tribulation cultivators exchanged bewildered glances, sensing Xander's murderous intent toward me. They instantly stepped forward with righteous defiance to shield me. Xander, shielding a demonic cultivator, how shameless, and now you dare attack such a gifted, virtuous young disciple, utterly despicable. If you dare lay a finger on her, we'll make you pay. Watching the two figures blocking my path, I twitched the corner of my mouth, but with their warning, Xander indeed held back from acting. Still shielding Violet, he growled, fine. I won't kill her, from now on. I'm done with your righteous path, I'll take Violet far away from you people. As these words were spoken, the heavenly tribulation paused, a golden light flashed, coalescing into the silhouette of an ancient figure high in the sky. A refreshing aura wafted through the air as an immortal elder, radiating celestial grace, descended before me on auspicious clouds, his extraordinary presence immediately apparent. After glancing at me, he turned to Xander and declared, if you're not of the righteous path, then you must be heretics. It's my duty to eradicate your kind. The sect master stood there with stern solemnity. He sighed as he looked down at Xander and Violet lying on the ground. After all, you were once disciples of our sect. Consider this, house cleaning. The smiles froze on Xander and Violet's faces. They'd actually thought they might be spared. The gap between Mahayana cultivation and the tribulation transcendence stage was vast, the latter being half a step into true immortalhood. In the blink of an eye, those two figures before me vanished into thin air, gone without a trace before I could even react. As I blinked, the sect master appeared by my side. That ascension blossom of yours really works, he boomed with laughter, looking at me with undisguised pride. I smiled in return. All credit goes to my master's teachings. From this day forth, I fear the Wuxia sect may no longer hold the title of the foremost cultivation sect. I must hasten to catch up to my master's footsteps. Story 2. My sister and I accidentally traveled to the world of beastmen. She found the Peacock King handsome and followed him to the Peacock Kingdom in the sky. I went with the Dragon King to the sea and joined the Dragon Clan, unexpectedly. The peacock was cold by nature, and my best friend couldn't resist conspiring with other beastmen, leading to her imprisonment by the Peacock King. Yet I bore 7 dragon princes in one birth, showered with the Serpent King's boundless favor, becoming his queen. My sister begged for my help, only to scream when I was about to rescue her. The Peacock King heard and struck me dead. When I opened my eyes again, my sister had already chosen the Serpent King she once scorned. Little does she know the Dragonkin prize offspring above all. Let her bear the agony of being a breeding tool this time. My sister Briar ran towards the Dragon King's direction. I knew she had also been reborn. In her past life, she thought the Peacock King was more handsome than the Dragon King and believed those in the sky were nobler than those in water, so she chose the Peacock King first. Sister, you're afraid of heights. Choosing the Peacock King might not suit your life. You'd better go live underwater with the Dragon King. Even now, she still puts on the act of being deeply sisterly with me. Sister, since you're into looks, I'll leave a top-tier man like the Peacock King for you. I smiled. Then she rushed straight toward the Dragon Serpent King. The Dragon Serpent King glanced at me curiously, and I immediately changed direction. In my past life, the Dragon King Magnus still found novelty in me, a human, often defending me in front of his brothers and spending every night with me, but his interest in me quickly faded. After giving birth to my first child and before even finishing the postpartum confinement, I was forced to conceive again. Only then did I realize the rumors were true. 1. The dragonkin place extreme importance on offspring, and female dragons must breed incessantly. Thus, in the days that followed, Magnus treated me as nothing more than a breeding tool, forcing me to bear child after child. Even once delivering 7 at once, my once beautiful face became swollen and sallow from pregnancy hormones. My proud figure turned loose and saggy, and gynecological symptoms from excessive childbearing gradually emerged. Magnus grew tired of my ugliness, giving me only the hollow title of Wolf Queen while continuing to entertain other female beastfolk. Briar feared Magnus might notice me again, so he blocked Magnus' line of sight toward me. I quickly moved toward the Peacock King as well. Peacock King Zephyr is truly handsome, with an elegant and noble demeanor. Mundane language cannot describe the awe I felt when I first laid eyes on him. Peacocks may be aloof, but at least they are monogamous, displaying their plumage for only one mate and having a single partner, whereas flood dragons are driven by desire and place great importance on offspring. I wonder if my sister can handle that. After all, being cherished by her husband is what she desires, right? Let's go, Zephyr spoke softly, placing his hand gently over my eyes. In an instant, we arrived at the Peacock clan's home at the edge of the sky. My head grew heavy, and I fell asleep. Before losing consciousness, I only felt myself in a warm embrace. In my dazed state, I sensed something soft brush against my lips, and then my fear of heights simply vanished. In the previous life, Zephyr was too cold towards Briar. Unable to endure the loneliness, Briar repeatedly tried to seduce Zephyr without success, then conspired with orcs from other clans. When she was caught red-handed, she watched helplessly as the orc she conspired with was beaten to death with sticks. Only by desperately begging and making promises did she manage to spare her own life. Zephyr did spare her, but only imprisoned her. However, the entire Peacock clan had already become wary of her. Briar exhausted all means to finally establish contact with me. By this time, I had already become the Queen of the Waters, second only to one person and above 10,000 others. My heart was with Briar, and I pleaded desperately with Magnus until he finally sent troops to attack the Peacock clan. In the chaos, I reached the place where Briar was imprisoned. Just as I was struggling to pick the lock, Briar suddenly shouted, "Help! The Dragon Queen is trying to take me away." Peacocks can communicate with their mates over great distances. Hearing the call, Zephyr arrived and struck me dead with a single blow. I've always cherished Briar as a younger sister, and even more so after crossing into the Beastman world. In this world that doesn't belong to me, she is the only proof of my existence in the real world. That's why I went to save her without hesitation. Little did I expect she would sever all my hopes of returning home, even seeking my death. So after rebirth, her choice of the Dragon King was within my expectations. After all, she had expressed envy more than once over my children filling the house and my husband's doting affection, just as well. I don't want to go back to those days when I wasn't treated as a human being. When I woke up, Zephyr was lying beside me, his gorgeous feathers gently covering my feet. "You're awake." The moment I stirred slightly, Zephyr opened his eyes keenly. I shrank back a little and nodded. "What's your name?" Zephyr looked down at me with a heavy gaze. "Leona." My voice trembled slightly. After all, I died by Zephyr's hands in my previous life, so I naturally feared him. "Zephyr," I nodded, and he suddenly raised his hand, gently brushing my cheek. I looked up at him and fell into Zephyr's beautiful eyes, vast as the starry sky. "We'll be married tomorrow." Having said that, he left, leaving me alone in this vast palace. Fine, at least this way I'm free and can occasionally go play on land. My husband is cold-natured and wealthy, so why not enjoy it? Zephyr didn't return until evening. After leaving, he walked up to me, wordlessly took my hand, and with a gentle touch, made a small cut on my fingertip. Ouch, that stings a little. I stared blankly at my bleeding hand, unsure of what he intended to do. Then Zephyr cut his own hand as well, took out an exquisite jade pendant, held my hand, and together we let our blood drip onto it. The blood was quickly absorbed into the jade pendant, which instantly looked as if it had been consecrated, appearing brand new. "What are you doing?" I asked in confusion. "Forming a marital contract with you," Zephyr said calmly. Then he split the jade pendant in two and handed half to me. I seem to remember now. Peacocks are born with a jade pendant in their mouths, used when marrying their beloved. When blood merges with the pendant, they'll never be separated for eternity. I recall in the previous life, Briar used this very pendant to communicate with Zephyr across thousands of miles. Seeing me hesitate to take it, a flicker of disappointment passed through Zephyr's eyes. "What? Not satisfied with me?" I quickly shook my head, took the pendant, and carefully tucked it into my robe. "Nothing like that." The moment I took the jade pendant in my hand, I suddenly felt a surge of warmth flow through my body, then I fell into a deep sleep again. I don't know if it was just my imagination, but I kept feeling something cold and soft touch my forehead. The next day was the grand wedding, and the entire Peacock tribe came. I don't know how Zephyr managed it, with just one day to prepare for the wedding. Yet this ceremony turned out to be extraordinarily grand. This is something I never experienced among the dragon folk, because while I was nominally Magnus' wife among the dragon folk, in reality Magnus had many other females around him for his amusement, so Magnus didn't pay much attention to our wedding ceremony. He was only looking forward to the wedding night. "What are you thinking about?" Zephyr's voice pulled me back to reality. I shook my head and stared blankly at Zephyr in his wedding attire. He was dazzlingly handsome, like a deity descended from heaven. After the ceremony, Zephyr and I sat facing each other in the bridal chamber, the atmosphere somewhat awkward. "My lord, it's time for us to rest." I was the first to break the quiet atmosphere. Zephyr froze momentarily upon hearing how I addressed him, then his ears turned slightly red. I also realized what I had just called him and suddenly felt somewhat shy. "It's time to rest." Zephyr curled his lips slightly, his eyes carrying a hint of pleasure. "This is something I haven't seen in so long." After turning off the lights, knowing Zephyr's cold temperament meant we wouldn't be having a traditional wedding night, I consciously kept half a bed's distance from him, then I peacefully fell asleep, but in my half-asleep state, I felt myself enveloped in a warm embrace. "Too hot," I murmured softly. Then that embrace seemed to panic momentarily before quietly withdrawing. When I woke up the next day, Zephyr was already gone. The maidservant dressed me up, saying that the Peacock King had specifically instructed them to prepare human food for me. Just when I thought I'd be eating vegetarian, the maidservant served me some roasted bird meat and a plate of quail eggs. Wait, even though Zephyr is the Sky King, surely he wouldn't roast his own subjects for me to eat, seeming to notice my confusion. The maidservant smiled and explained, "My queen, we distinguish between beast folk and ordinary animals. What you're eating are ordinary animals, no need to worry." I nodded and started eating with relief. During this time, Zephyr and I got along harmoniously, each doing our own things. He handled his political affairs while I wandered around aimlessly. After all, Zephyr had money. While strolling through an alley, I unexpectedly heard gossip about myself. "Have you heard? Our queen is actually a human. Humans can't survive long in our thin air. I bet the king has given his beast core to the queen." I felt suspicious and went back to ask Zephyr, "Husband, where is your beast core?" I asked directly without beating around the bush. Zephyr paused in handling official affairs, then looked at me. "What happened to you? When did you put this on me?" Zephyr chuckled softly. "When you first arrived." I recalled that first day when I arrived, in my dazed state. Feeling something soft brush against my lips, I understood how Zephyr had transferred the beast core to me, and couldn't help but blush slightly. "But isn't the beast core the lifeblood of you beastmen? How could you just place it within me like this?" I bit my lip and asked. "We have forged a contract, bound by fate, inseparable for eternity. From now on, you are my lifeline." Who would have thought someone as aloof as Zephyr could say such alluring words? Gazing at his peerless beauty, I suddenly felt my mouth go dry. I seem to have developed some improper thoughts about him, but I know this is wrong. I wanted to escape, so I said goodbye and tried to leave, but Zephyr suddenly grabbed my hand. Momentum sent me tumbling heavily into Zephyr's embrace. Zephyr's feathers were soft, gently brushing against my calves. I think I accidentally pressed my hand on Zephyr. The skin contact made Zephyr's neck and ears visibly turn red. I wanted to get up, but my hand kept fumbling and touching them several more times in panic. Zephyr hastily pinned down my unruly hand and pulled me up. "Are you blushing?" Zephyr looked at me with laughter in his eyes. "Of course. He's like some kind of enchantress." I turned away angrily, refusing to look at him. Zephyr turned my body back towards him, and I suddenly noticed faint dark circles under his eyes. "Have you encountered anything interesting here? Tell me about it," Zephyr asked. Instead of answering him, I asked, "Haven't you been resting well lately?" "Yeah, it's an old problem." I put down the book in his hand and led him to the bed. "You sleep. I'll tell you a story." I rambled on about the interesting things I'd heard these past few days, while Zephyr just smiled softly at me. His gaze tender as he listened attentively. "I told you to sleep. Why are you looking at me?" I suddenly felt somewhat shy. Zephyr chuckled softly, raising his hand to stroke my hair before closing his eyes peacefully. Watching Zephyr's breathing gradually steady, his usually cold expression softened. Looking at Zephyr, I felt an indescribable sense of peace. In this orc world now, the only one I can rely on is Zephyr. The peacock has always been devoted. He will protect me. I am human. Without the strength or magic of orcs, I am undoubtedly weak. I really want to go back, but even though I searched for a lifetime in my previous life, I couldn't find a way to return. I let out a sigh towards Zephyr. I am undoubtedly filled with guilt and fear. In my previous life, it was because of my instigation that the entire dragon clan declared war on the peacock clan. The scene of peacock and dragon corpses strewn across the battlefield still lingers vividly before my eyes. Though I wasn't openly involved in the war, I always felt my hands were stained with blood, so even if I end up being killed by Zephyr, I won't blame him. After all, I started the war, so death would be a kind of release. Besides, Zephyr treats me very well now. I just wonder, without me in this lifetime, will there still be wars? Gazing at Zephyr's serene features, I kissed him between his brows. I'm not sure if it's my imagination, but Zephyr's lips seemed to curl slightly. Briar sent a letter inviting me to her 100-day celebration. Turns out she's already given birth to a child, and it's even been 100 days. Time really flies. I looked up at Zephyr. Husband, may I go? I must definitely meet Briar. After all, she's now the queen of the... At the same time, I'm also a bit curious. If she were to relive my life in this lifetime, would she still think I'm happy? Zephyr nodded and then said, I'll accompany you, even after being together for so long. I still find myself occasionally stunned by Zephyr's beauty. Husband, will you accompany me? In my understanding, Zephyr has always been very busy. I never expected him to take time out to accompany me, especially since while he's never been stingy materially, his attitude toward me has always been lukewarm. Zephyr nodded, fed me a water-repelling pill, then transformed into a peacock form, signaling for me to ride on him, actually, with his magical power. He could have simply teleported us directly into the sea. A surge of sweetness welled up in my heart as I climbed on and tightly hugged Zephyr's neck. The Orcish aura differs across land, sea, and air, so the moment we entered the ocean, Briar and Magnus knew and were already waiting at the entrance to greet us. When she saw me, Briar still played the role of affectionate sisters with me, warmly grabbing my hand the moment we met. But I noticed her belly had slightly swollen again. Briar's complexion didn't look great, but her heavy makeup barely concealed it. Sister, I've finally seen you again, Briar said with a smile. I chuckled along with them. Briar glanced at Zephyr behind me, seemingly surprised that he had come with me too. Then she leaned in and whispered in my ear, have you two slept together? How is he in bed? I remained silent, but didn't miss the glint of schadenfreude in Briar's eyes. It's all right. Peacocks are naturally aloof. Take your time. Having obtained the conclusion Briar wanted, she patted my shoulder with a more genuine smile. I nodded, and then Briar was pulled into Magnus' embrace, but Magnus' viper-like gaze remained fixed on me. Feeling somewhat afraid, I retreated behind Zephyr. In my past life, forced by Magnus to bear child after child, the scenes of being toyed with by Magnus and his brothers remain vivid in my memory. Magnus' torment was so profound that my fear of him has been etched into my very bones. Zephyr noticed my fear and stepped forward to block Magnus' line of sight, glaring at him with hostility. Magnus chuckled softly and left with Briar, taking their seats. The banquet was grand and luxurious, with Briar holding the child at the head of the table, undoubtedly the center of attention. Seeing me enter, Briar waved at me with the child in their arms, signaling for me to come over. I walked over, claiming to reminisce with me, but really just here to show off. Look at your niece. Isn't she adorable? Briar handed me the child in her arms to see, so fair and tender, truly lovely. So it's a girl. No wonder they're throwing such a grand feast, for, in the beastman world, females are scarce. One more female means the race can reproduce more effectively. Thinking of my children from my previous life, a wave of sorrow wells up in my heart again. Magnus wouldn't allow me to get close to the children, only making me bear one after another, so until my death. The children remained distant from me. No wonder Briar held the child so preciously in her arms today, as she rarely got to see the child at other times. They are quite adorable. I smiled sincerely. Hearing me say this, Briar was very pleased, then deliberately showed off her various jewels and said, Sister, how does your husband treat you? He's quite good to me. I replied, my husband treats me well too, especially in bed. He's very vigorous. Briar lowered her voice and said to me with a blushing face, I know Magnus is quite skilled in that regard, and so are his brothers. Recalling Briar's inability to endure loneliness in the previous life, one has to admit they were quite well matched in that regard. I then glanced at Briar's abdomen. Little sister, are you pregnant again? Briar's face paled slightly as she stammered, Yes, it's my choice, might as well have more children while I'm young. Just then, Magnus walked over. Seeing Magnus approaching, I quickly turned and walked away. I don't know if it's just my imagination, but I keep feeling his sticky gaze fixed on me, making me extremely uncomfortable. What's wrong? Do you like children? We could have one too. Noticing my pale expression, Zephyr thought I was feeling envious and asked. My face flushed slightly. I do like them, but let's consider this matter another time. The banquet began, and since Zephyr was the king of the sky, many people came to cozy up to him. We were soon separated by the crowd. This isn't much different from the drinking culture in the real world. Just as I was mentally complaining, a servant approached me, saying the Dragon Queen had a secret message for me and asked me to go to the backyard. Is she trying to say she was reborn? With doubts in my heart, I left the banquet and followed the attendant. When I reached the backyard, someone embraced me from behind. I would never forget this presence. It was the nightmare of my previous life. Magnus. My body couldn't help but start trembling. Let me go. I couldn't break free from Magnus' powerful embrace at all. Leona, why didn't you choose me this time? Magnus held me even tighter. What are you talking about? I don't understand. You're my brother-in-law, please behave yourself. I forced myself to stay calm. Magnus turned my body around, his large hands gripping my shoulders tightly, his sharp eagle-like gaze fixed on me. Keep following me. How could a race like peacocks ever serve you properly? I struggled against him desperately, my voice trembling with tears. I don't know what you're talking about. Let me go. Seeing Magnus reminded me of my past life, where he toyed with me like a rag, and of myself becoming ugly and sickly from constant childbirth. Stop pretending, Leona, you are always mine. A dark surge flashed in Magnus' eyes as he tried to bite my lips. Wasn't it good when we lived together with a house full of children before? I lifted my leg and rammed it straight into Magnus' stomach. Magnus winced in pain and immediately released me, looking at me with disbelief in his eyes. Leona, you actually hurt me. I stepped back one pace at a time, my eyes filled with pure hatred as I stared at Magnus. Suddenly, a comforting presence appeared and pulled me into an embrace. It's Zephyr. The tension in my heart finally eased, and I melted into Zephyr's embrace. Though Zephyr's expression remained cold, it filled me with immense peace. Zephyr lifted me into the air, glaring coldly at Magnus with an aura so dark it was terrifying. Dragon King, you've crossed the line. Seeing the flash of killing intent in Zephyr's eyes, I knew he had murderous thoughts. This was exactly how he killed me in my previous life. Magnus watched as Zephyr held me, a shadow passing through his eyes. Keep a close eye on your queen. Next time, she might just become mine. A cryptic smile played at the corners of Magnus' lips as he turned and walked away, watching Zephyr's brows furrow and seeing magical energy coalesce in his hands. I immediately knew he intended to chase after and kill Magnus. I pressed on his magic-charged hand and shook my head at him. Only when he saw my expression did the murderous glint gradually fade from Zephyr's eyes. The ocean is Magnus' domain. Even if we kill Magnus now, Zephyr and I would have great difficulty escaping from the sea. Then, Zephyr held me in his arms, ready to go home. Just at that moment, Briar walked over. Sister, are you going back now? Seeing Zephyr carefully holding me in his arms, a flash of jealousy crossed Briar's face, as if unable to believe that Zephyr would actually care for me so tenderly and treat me so well. Yes, take good care of yourself, I nodded. Briar's tone turned slightly sour. You two really are quite close, aren't you? Just then, the vanished Magnus reappeared, a force pulling Briar back into his embrace. Briar, let's go. Magnus' voice sounded somewhat displeased. Briar shrank slightly and obediently followed Magnus back to the banquet. It's obvious that Briar is terrified of Magnus, after all. He treats Briar just like he treated me in our past life. We're merely Magnus accessories, objects, anything but human beings. Only after returning to the Peacock clan did Zephyr finally set me down from his embrace. Seeing us return in such intimate closeness, the maids waiting at the entrance exchanged glances and secretly giggled. Zephyr's ears turned slightly red. I was charmed by Zephyr's cuteness and confidently held his hand as we entered the house. My lady, please don't leave Sky alone from now on, Zephyr instructed. After all, Magnus has always been paranoid. If anything were to happen, I wouldn't be able to handle it alone. What I didn't expect was that Magnus was also reborn. If that's the case, could Zephyr be reborn too? But if he was reborn, from his perspective I must not be a good person, so why is he still so kind to me? I know why Magnus wants me back, because I'm highly fertile and can bear multiple children in one pregnancy. If Magnus discovers that Briar can only bear one child at a time, he would surely revoke all honors bestowed upon her and spare no effort to capture me back. Let's hope Briar can maintain Magnus' interest a little longer. But the truth is, Briar's second pregnancy still resulted in only one child. Magnus' fascination with Briar has completely faded. Briar gradually became Magnus' plaything. Briar pleaded for my help again, but after reading it, I silently burned the letter. I'm no saint. I won't save her a second time. Besides, if I go to the sea, I might end up imprisoned by Magnus. Since none of the letters Briar sent me received any response, Magnus issued a challenge from the ocean to the sky on behalf of the seas, saying either hand me over to Magnus, or prepare for war. After reading the challenge, Zephyr was nearly overflowing with anger, and with a darkened expression, commanded those below, "Tell the soldiers to prepare for battle." The war between sea and sky was on the verge of breaking out. I feel guilty in my heart. After all, the Great War in the previous life started because of me, and this life is also because of me. 5. War represents death, so other races in the sky who submitted to the Peacock sent letters opposing the war. They said since I'm just a human anyway, it would be better to hand me over to Magnus to avoid the sky being severely weakened by war. Zephyr disagreed and insisted on protecting me no matter what. The other races reluctantly agreed, but only sent their old, weak, sick, and disabled troops. It seems this battle is fraught with danger. To say I wasn't moved would be a lie. After spending so much time together, I had already fallen for Zephyr. Though I don't know if he likes me, I'm afraid he might get hurt. or even die. On the day Zephyr left for battle, my tears wouldn't stop flowing. Zephyr held me in his arms, wiped away my tears, and kissed my forehead reluctantly. Wait for me to return. I grabbed Zephyr's hand and said with a sob, "Can I go with you?" No. Zephyr refused me bluntly, then softened his tone as if afraid it was too harsh. He placed my hand on his face and said, "If I'm in danger, I'll use my life to send you to a safe place." What place? Your original world. Zephyr gazed at me affectionately. His eyes were beautiful, but I wasn't in the mood to appreciate them today. My tears began falling uncontrollably again as I held Zephyr tightly. "You must come back alive." Though I don't understand how Zephyr has a method to send me back, I'd much rather have Zephyr live safely than trade their life for my return. I'm terrified, both of Zephyr dying and of being captured by Magnus again. But there's nothing I can do except be afraid. I'm just a human, weak and useless. Memories from my past life flooded before my eyes once again. It was Magnus' ferocious face, Magnus scrutinizing my distorted figure and face, calling me disgusting, and the unspeakable gynecological diseases I suffered from bearing too many children. Did Magnus love me? Of course not, yet he still enshrined me as queen, bestowing upon me countless honors. Just because he can't live without me, because I can give him the most offspring. He didn't treat me as a human being, never asked for my opinion, always forced me, even right after I gave birth. But Zephyr is different. He treats me well and respects me, though I don't know if his kindness is just out of respect for his wife. I still think Zephyr is an exceptionally good person. Falling for such an exceptionally good person is only natural, right? My lady, take care. Zephyr wiped away my tears once more, pulling me out of the painful memories. Zephyr gave me one last reluctant glance, handed me over to the maids behind him, and left without looking back. The maids held me firmly, preventing me from following Zephyr. I was back in the bedchamber. The usually comfortable bedchamber felt unusually cold to me today. "Any news?" I grabbed the maid at the door and asked. The maid shook her head. I felt somewhat desperate, but then remembered Zephyr once told me about a secret chamber containing some ancient manuals and treasures. Light gradually returned to my eyes as I walked toward the secret chamber. After rummaging through the chamber, I suddenly found a mirror with a notch that perfectly matched the half-jade pendant Zephyr had given me. My hands trembled as I placed the jade pendant onto it. The mirror gradually expanded, unfolding before my eyes like a screen. I saw it. It was Zephyr inside. He was fighting Magnus on land. Who would have thought? Magnus actually allied with the king of the land to attack the celestial clan. How shameless. Zephyr was at a complete disadvantage, already wounded, 6, burning with anxiety. I touched the mirror and discovered I could actually pass through it. Without time to think, I saw Magnus attempting to ambush Zephyr from behind. I rushed in directly, shielding Zephyr from behind, blocking Magnus' heavy blow. I grunted and collapsed. "My lady, Leona," two voices cried out simultaneously. Zephyr noticed me appearing behind him and hurriedly caught me. I kissed him directly and returned the beast core to Zephyr. Only with the beast core can Zephyr unleash his full strength. It's wonderful, as long as Zephyr is alive. In a hazy daze, I felt cold tears dripping onto my face as Zephyr held me tightly, sobbing uncontrollably. But it seems I'm about to die. My eyes gradually closed, and my body grew increasingly cold. When I opened my eyes again, warm sunlight bathed my face, and the familiar surroundings filled me with deep recognition. What's this? Am I back? Did Zephyr use his life to send me back? At this thought, tears streamed down my face again. That fool, I went through so much to save him. "Sis, Mom's calling us for dinner." Briar walked into my room at that moment. "Briar, she's back too." Seeing Briar, my face was full of wariness. "Sis, what's with that expression? Hey, why are you crying?" Briar looked at me in surprise. I observed her carefully for a while and, sensing nothing unusual, replied, "Got some sand in my eyes." Briar nodded and smiled at me, but the more I looked at that smile, the more eerie it seemed. Perhaps it was the psychological shadow from when she left me for dead in the orc world. "Little sister, do you know Magnus and Zephyr?" I couldn't help but ask. "Of course I know them." My heart instantly leaped into my throat. "The male lead in that novel I recommended to you has this exact name. And you said you weren't interested and hadn't read it," Briar continued. "So it was from a novel after all. Maybe everything in the Beastman world was just a dream." Thinking of Zephyr, my heart suddenly feels somewhat empty. After finishing my meal quietly, I decided to go out for a walk. After all, I've experienced too much in the orc world and need some time to process it. Unexpectedly, on the largest screen in the central square, I saw that face I've been longing for day and night, Zephyr. I approached and saw the latest news about the richest person on top. The newest richest person was unmistakably Zephyr. Oh no, it might just be someone who looks like Zephyr. 7. I let out a self-deprecating laugh and lowered my eyes. Suddenly, a shadow fell over me. I looked up, my vision blurred by welling tears, making it hard to see clearly. All I could discern was that the person before me looked exactly like Zephyr. "Zephyr, is this an illusion?" I murmured. But the person in front of me pulled me straight into an embrace. It's not an illusion, my lady, I've come to find you. According to Zephyr, after my death, Magnus and Zephyr each expended half their magic to resurrect me and send me back to the original world, and Briar returned the very moment I came back. Time stood still in the real world, so it felt like I had just been dreaming. The land, sea, and air also regained peace after my death, as Magnus and Zephyr declared a ceasefire. Since then, Zephyr and Magnus desperately tried to find a way to reach my world, but their efforts were in vain, until one day, Zephyr remembered the mirror I used to visit him. He placed his half of the jade pendant on it and subsequently arrived in my world, but the blue planet was densely populated, so he could only position himself at the highest point, believing I would see him and come find him. Are you stupid? I sobbed, leaning into Zephyr's embrace, my heart overflowing with sweetness. My lady, as I've said, our fates are intertwined, we shall never part for eternity. Zephyr held me, gazing at me as if beholding some long-lost treasure finally returned. Then I asked him again whether he knew about the reincarnation. He said he did know. That's right, all four of us have been reborn. Then why are you still so good to me? I asked, somewhat puzzled. Zephyr smiled gently and explained that after killing me in his previous life, he discovered it was Briar who had framed me. Filled with remorse, he decided to treat me well in this new life, but what he didn't expect was that he would genuinely fall in love with me. Were you this nice to Briar in your past life too? I suddenly felt a pang of jealousy. No, everything is uniquely yours, Zephyr explained in a flustered manner. Fine, I'll reluctantly forgive him, then. Zephyr and I got married again in this world. On our wedding night, as I was about to turn off the lights and sleep just like my previous marriage, Zephyr leaned over and pinned me beneath him. Is this okay? Zephyr's Adam's apple bobbed as desire colored his eyes. Huh, weren't you supposed to be cold-natured? My face burned crimson. Cold-natured doesn't mean sexually frigid. Zephyr chuckled softly before kissing me. Magnus' side story. I obtained a little human. Although she appeared with her sister, I noticed her at first glance. Fortunately, her sister chose the Peacock King, allowing me to have her, but my wife is expected to keep bearing children, though unwilling. It's tradition and I can't do anything about it. I didn't know she actually disliked this. Her constitution is special. She can bear multiple children in one pregnancy. She bore many children for me, but in doing so, she became ugly and fat. I admit, I don't love her as much anymore. But she is still my queen, and her children will still be the next rulers of my sea clan. So when she proposed to attack the Celestial clan, I agreed, but she died at the hands of the Peacock King. Only then did I realize that I still loved her. Miraculously, it seems I've been reborn, and it appears I'm not the only one who was reborn, because she chose the Peacock King, while her younger sister came to me. I thought her sister could replace her in my heart, but I found her sister completely different from her. I still miss her. Seeing her again in the Peacock King's embrace filled me with unbearable jealousy toward him. I want to take her back, but she refuses. I know I treated her poorly in my past life, but I will change. So I started another war, trying to win her back, but I never thought it would kill her. If I had known, I would never have started the war. I joined forces with the Peacock King to resurrect her and send her back to her original world. I know she doesn't belong to this world, nor does she belong to me. I nodded. Zephyr's side story. I never knew my wife would be such a promiscuous woman, even to the point of being caught in bed with another man. I locked her up, but suddenly heard that the Sea Tribe was about to wage war against me. I went to battle, only to receive her distant message saying her sister was forcibly taking her away. Though I have no feelings for this wife in name, I still feel responsible for her. I rushed over and killed her sister with a single strike, but only then did I realize that my wife had framed her sister. Her sister had been deceived. I was filled with regret, yet somehow I was reborn, and this time, the girl I had killed became my wife. At first, I was nice to her just out of guilt, but later I realized she was different from her sister, gentle, considerate, and kind. I seem to be growing more and more dependent on her. I think I've genuinely fallen for her. I knew she wasn't from this world, so I began searching for a way to help her return home, but then I learned that I would have to sacrifice my own life to send her back. I do not fear death, I just fear that I will never see her again. The Sea Tribe, just like in my previous life, declared war on me and even targeted my wife. Of course, I had to fight back, but why was she so foolish? Sacrificing her own life for me. The Dragon King also looked incredulous. The war stopped the moment my wife died. A life for a life. Just as I was about to use my own life to revive her and send her home, the Dragon King stopped me. The two of us each exhausted half our magic power to send her home, but after that, my longing for her only grew stronger. I want to see her, to go to her world and find her. I tried every possible method, but nothing worked. 8. Suddenly I remembered that day during the war, the image of her descending from the sky, so I also found that mirror and placed the jade pendant on it. I've truly entered her world, but the timing was several months too early. This world is too crowded. Finding her is like searching for a needle in a haystack. Then let me make myself shine brightly, so she can see me and know I've come looking for her. On the day she woke up, I waited eagerly. Sure enough, she appeared, with a nervous heart. I stood before her as she rushed into my arms in tears. Leona, I've missed you so much, so are you.